warned that there is no active threat to the community. MPD saying that the threat has been neutralized. Lou Raguse has sources telling him that the shooter is dead. Richfield police sharing in a Facebook post that there are 20 victims. That's the information they have from law enforcement. Also, information that this was a shooter who was dressed all in black and walked in with a rifle, with a gun, and opened fire. Yeah, 20 victims here. Obviously, it triggered a mass casualty response. We know Richfield getting involved here, assisting MPD with just this horrific tragedy. And right now they're urging parents trying to be reunified with their kids to go to the reunification center that's at 54th, and I'm trying to get the exact address here. Want to make sure I give parents the right information. 525 West 54th Street. That's the reunification zone at Annunciation School. We heard our Jessica Hart on the scene, who was talking about kids being led away and with their parents with MPD. I cannot imagine the relief that these parents feel as they reunify with their kids, because during that time when they don't know what's happening, when they don't know who is safe, are there victims? Is the shooter still active, or has that shooter been stopped? So those moments when they get to hug their kids just absolutely have to be so meaningful and so relieving, but also so devastating, because they know that their kids are going to be experiencing this. Yeah, it's trauma that is going to stick with them for a long time. We have our Jessica Hart out there on the scene, and she's been watching parents come up and get their kids out of the school. Jessica, what are you seeing right now? What can you tell us?
Yeah, Jason and Lauren, more kids are being escorted out here by their parents. Now what they're doing is that they're bringing these parents in groups. So they're bringing them in groups kind of around the side of the school here, just in groups of maybe about half a dozen or so. And then a few minutes later, they walk out with their kids. Now, many of them have been holding their child's hand or put their hands on their shoulders. And the kids have walked by us a few times, and just the look on their faces, they look scared. They look fearful. The neighbors in this area tell me this was the second day of school for these kids. They were supposed to be having fun, starting a new school year, but instead they're leaving, just some of them just honestly looking like just blank stares, like they're still processing or trying to figure out what exactly happened and what they went through here. And you can see the emotion too on the parents' faces. Relief that they have their child, but you can also see their eyes watering and the tears starting to form, that this is something that their child has now had to go through, and they need to figure out what exactly comes next. So they're still escorting kids out of the school here. We've seen really young kids, we've seen teenagers walk out here, all as Minneapolis police stand guard around the entire perimeter here. We've also seen some HSI agents walk on the scene about 7 minutes ago. So law enforcement are still coming here to help out with this scene. The ambulances that we saw earlier this morning, none of them have left. We haven't seen anyone get inside either of them. There's about 7 of them here near the intersection of Garfield Avenue and 54th Street, but still a very large police presence. We haven't seen it kind of dwindle. It looks like we might have a school instructor or pastor just kind of walking the perimeter of the school, checking in with people here. So it's still a very active scene from where we're at. We have not seen any officers leave the scene. We've been seeing more and more families just kind of quietly exit the scene and take their kids back home here. So just a very kind of solemn scene. There's still a lot of people just kind of watching around here on the outskirts. Many of them are neighbors, and they just wanted to come here to see if there's anything they could do. They heard about this, and they either have known someone inside, but they don't know if the people that they know are inside are okay. Lauren, Jason?
And that's the thing, like the unknown, going there and not knowing if your loved one, if your child, if they're doing well in the aftermath of this.
Not only were they hurt, but also how close were they? What did they witness? What did they hear? What did they see? What happened to their friends? We do have some new information here, and we want to just be very careful to let you know what we know, what is confirmed, and what is not. This comes from a source. Lou Raguse telling us that a source tells him 3 people are dead including the shooter. Now, again, all of this information so preliminary because these things are chaotic when they're happening. So even police are trying to get a handle on what they're seeing and what they can confirm. But a source telling Lou Raguse 3 people are dead, including the shooter, and that the shooting occurred during the morning mass, which we have been reporting is at 8:15 every morning, was likely this morning, we're told from people who are part of that school community, an all-school mass. And of course, it's 10:11 now. We're being told that at 10:15, we should get more information on the victims from HCMC.
Yeah, 3 dead, like you mentioned, not sure of ages. We don't know if they're kids, adults. Still working on that information, that preliminary information from a high-level source, according to Lou. 3 people dead as of right now. 20 people, 20 victims here is what we're told, according to Richfield PD. So hopefully more clarity coming here in the next few minutes, but just awful stuff. Absolutely horrible. Second day of school, and this is happening to these kids.
Second day of school in a church community, in a school community. You know, most of the specific details we have right now are coming from Richfield Police rather than from Minneapolis Police. Richfield Police assisting MPD. And so when they say 20 victims, keep in mind, victim does not mean deceased. That could be a person who has been injured in this mass shooting that occurred. MPD source telling Lou that 3 are dead, including the shooter. And MPD did confirm earlier that the shooter was no longer a threat. Lou's sources told him earlier that that shooter was dead. It will be very interesting to hear from HCMC the type of injuries that they're seeing coming in. We know that there have been ambulances coming there. They were told to prepare for a mass casualty event. Oh, we are now hearing that the HCMC presser delayed to 11 o'clock. So we will have to wait a little bit more for some of those specifics.
As of right now, the city of Minneapolis still on track to hold a press conference here at 10:30, but that HCMC conference has been delayed. So we're still gathering more information. Information is still trickling in bit by bit, little by little. It's a very active scene. We have our reporters fanned out across the area right now trying to gather more details. We can tell you that there's no longer an active threat to the community. So if you're living in that neighborhood, you're wondering what's going on, you're looking out your window, no active threat to the community. We are told that shooter is contained. Again, still waiting on details in terms of the total number of victims, the total number of casualties. We're told by Lou Raguse, by a high-level source, that 3 people are dead right now. Not sure of the ages, not sure adult, child, and whatnot. Still working on that information, but we can tell you that the shooter is contained.
Okay, and you're looking at live pictures from the scene right now. You see canines out there. You see officers guarding the perimeter. We know from a different angle, Jessica Hart is seeing children being reunited with their parents here outside of Annunciation Church and School. Our Lou Raguse has been talking with his sources all morning. He joins us now on the phone. Lou, what have you been able to learn about the response to this active shooting threat?
Looks like we're having issues with Lou's connection. Obviously a lot going on right now. Just going to try to get reconnected with him to get more information, but Lou is well-placed sources out there. Lou, can you hear us?
Okay, we're going to work on getting Lou on the phone because he has been doing reporting on this all morning, has sources in Minneapolis police who are giving him information in real time. And again, with information coming in a situation like this, it can always change. These things are fluid. Police officers, law enforcement, hospital authorities, public officials are giving us the information as they know it in that moment, but it changes for them too. They get new information and then they share it. And so we are going to try and just be very clear about what we know, how we know it, and bear with us in this because we're just trying to keep everyone as informed as we can. Obviously a tragic day in Minneapolis, the beginning of the school year, a church and school where they were celebrating a back-to-school mass, an all-school mass at 8:15 this morning. And we are told that there was a gunman who came into that school community or that church community, I'm not sure which exact building, they are connected, and opened fire. An active shooter situation which has now been contained. Lou Ragusa's sources telling him that shooter is dead, but sadly also telling him that at least 3 people are dead in this shooting.
Yeah, the shooter armed with a rifle, dressed in all black. And as we mentioned here, when it comes to those rifles, those high-powered weapons, the damage they do, it's just horrible. And you know, it'll be interesting to hear from HCMC to see the extent of the injuries. But those weapons can really tear through people and really cause a lot of damage. And so, and imagine all that. I mean, I hate to even bring it up, but when it comes to little kids, like a weapon like that, you know, doing that kind of damage, just unimaginable.
Yes, there has been incredible reporting about that and what those type of weapons do to a child's body. We have seen it again and again in this country at school shootings. This time it appears to be happening right in our community here in Minneapolis, in the Tangletown neighborhood of Minneapolis, at Annunciation Church and School. And these things do ripple throughout an entire community because every single parent watching this is thinking of their own kids at their own school and sending them off. A lot of schools don't start till next week. A lot of schools began this week. My son had his first day of school today. And so these school communities, these parents, all can put themselves in these shoes of how awful this is. All right, we are going to try now and go again to Lou Ragus, who has been reporting on this all morning. Lou, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Lou, what can you tell us about this situation? What are you learning?
Well, first of all, I'll start with the worst news, which is indeed the fatalities. And as of right now, 2 innocent people have been confirmed to me to have been killed in the shooting. The 3rd death is the shooter. The 3rd fatality is the shooter, who is confirmed to me to be dead. And one of the 2 victims, I'm told, is a child. I'm going to kind of hold back right now on the age type information because although this is coming from high-level sources, there's often what I refer to as fog of war reporting, where even the people at the top are getting information so fast that sometimes little mistakes can be made. So I don't want to say an age that ends up being incorrect here, but sadly, I'm being told that one of the fatalities so far is confirmed to be a child. Right now, we're at the scene. It's blocked off in all directions. And right now, Minneapolis police officers are kind of going door to door in the neighborhood. We're off of Garfield and 53rd Street right now. And I'm not going to, say where exactly they're going through houses, but there's just the sense that I get is that it's just to make sure there's no more threat. And so police are kind of going door to door. People are standing outside. It's, just as horrible as you can imagine. People are in shock. It's actually eerily quiet around the neighborhoods with all the people just in disbelief right now.
Lou, this information, it is the absolute worst news that a child killed on their 2nd day of school. I'm wondering, you mentioned that the gunman is one of those who is deceased. Do we have any indication as to whether the gunman took his own life or whether there was a confrontation with police?
No, we don't. And just to give you an idea of how this information comes in, like to me, from decent sources throughout the morning, I was hearing, the possibility that there may have been more than one shooter, and I do not have that confirmed. I was hearing that the shots may have came from outside before hearing that they came from inside. So that just tells you how many different directions the information comes from when something like this happens. And so at this time, I'm telling you all that I'm comfortable reporting publicly right now.
Yeah, and we very much appreciate that, Lou. We have to be careful about sharing information that we know to be accurate.
There were reports of potential IEDs or...
Yeah, that was another thing that I heard, although I don't specifically see bomb squads and robot drones at this moment, so I don't have a visual on that, but that is other information that I heard from decent source at one point this morning.
And Lou, Richfield Police sent a Facebook message this morning that indicated 20 victims, and that's what they were being told by law enforcement.
That was the initial information, and that goes to initially. That's not confirmed to be true. Like I also heard a number that was closer to 11 people that were potentially hurt. So the numbers have not been confirmed yet. We're hoping at 10:30 here that we might get a little more official information on stuff like that. But that just tells you that even the police at the very beginning are told the initial information, like what's being called in on 911, for example, and then even they are sorting through all the facts at this time.
Okay, a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
Lou, thank you very much. We're going to allow you to get back to work. If you have any other information.
One last thing. One last thing. The family reunification is still going on as we speak, and so we're seeing parents and children reuniting here. And on top of that, there's a lot of concerned people from the community that have basically come out here to see exactly what is going on. But the area is blocked off for about 2 blocks in each direction, and obviously if you don't have a loved one here that you need to pick up, it's probably a good idea to stay away because it's very congested, a lot of traffic. Took me a long time to even get close here driving in from home this morning.
Certainly, Lou, that is good advice. Stay away unless you are there to pick up a loved one, and I know you can relate to what those parents are going through with that reunification and how emotional that is. Lou, thank you for the reporting, and thank you for being clear about what we are able to confirm and what we can't. Your point is well taken, that even for police officers, information in a situation like this is incredibly fluid, and what may be true at one point, new information comes in, It is no longer true a short while later. Not sure what we were looking at on that live picture there. We saw a number of people seeming to enter that building just now. That's the front of the school. And looked like people in fatigues entering the building. So that is, whether that's part of the investigation or some other response, it is unclear. We do have reporters on the scene who will keep us updated as soon as they have any additional information.
So the Associated Press right now reporting a Minneapolis hospital, not specifying which one, says it's treating 5 children injured from a shooting at a Catholic school. That's coming from the Associated Press. 5 children being treated at a hospital right now. And then, of course, Lou reporting the unthinkable, the news that we did not want to hear, that a child, according to his sources, according to his law enforcement sources, among the dead here, 3 dead, including a child and the shooter as well. We are expecting a press conference here from the city of Minneapolis. It's set to start here at around 10:30. Expecting to get some more information on victims here, the shooter, exactly what happened here. There's so many questions right now, and we wish we could give you more details, but we're just kind of learning everything as we go along here from our sources out there in the field, from our reporters out there in the field, and we're hoping to get some more information to you very, very soon. But what we can tell you, 3 dead, including the shooter, according to our sources. That shooter obviously neutralized and no longer a threat to the community.
All right, and we do have a new statement from Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty about this shooting at Annunciation Church. Moriarty says, "We are aware of the horrific mass casualty situation at Annunciation Catholic Church. Our hearts break as we write this. Families seeking to reunify with loved ones who are at Annunciation should go to 55th and Lyndale. Staff from our victim services team will be on that site, and as information becomes available to our office, we will update the public."
Yeah, a number of police here, as we can see, a number of law enforcement making their way around the school, into the school, obviously securing the scene, and a long investigation here still to come in the aftermath of this. Just horrible.
And we see them there. We talk about the impacts on the school community, on parents, on families, which of course is the greatest, the families and loved ones of the victims, but also these police officers, first responders, paramedics, came here to a scene in which children were shot. And that has to be an awful thing.
You think about
that they are dealing with as well.
You think about that, you think about the doctors and the nurses and the surgeons that are going to have to deal with these gunshot injuries because, as we mentioned, the shooter was carrying around a rifle. It wasn't a handgun, not a regular weapon. It's a rifle. This is going to cause a lot of damage. And you're talking about, I don't know the ages of these children, but you're talking about kids that with these gunshot wounds.
It is a K-8 school. Audrey Russo sent a photo, and I don't know if we're going to share because we want to be very careful about what we share. But as I look at this, these are little children. This is a K-8 school holding their parents' hands, one holding the hand of a police officer, walking out of that school to be reunited. You know, kids who barely come up to the officer's elbow. So we are talking about some very small children here who are dealing with this.
That should never have to experience this on their second day of school. Not ever.
Never, ever.
But especially on their second day of school as the year is starting off with just so much hope and for this to happen. Man, oh man.
It makes a person incredibly sad, incredibly angry.
And fearful.
Yeah, and you know, we also, there are neighbors in this community who have witnessed things here, who have been trying to get information, also wanting to see how they can help. We did speak with one. Let's see if we can bring you that sound.
So we live about 2 blocks from here. I was on a call. All the windows of our home were open. I know what gunfire sounds like, and I could tell. I was shocked. I said, "There's no way that could be gunfire." There was so much of it.
Yeah, the sounds. You probably never forget the sound of especially of a rifle like that going off, and then when you find out that it's at the school, that's when the panic starts to set in.
Of course,
on top of that.
Yeah, absolute panic. And for these neighbors who are there in that community, you know, I mean, a church, a school, it's very much a part of the neighborhood to which it belongs.
Yeah.
As we say, these things do not happen in a vacuum. When you have someone assault a school community, in fact, other school communities are dealing with this too. We know that another Catholic school in Edina went on lockdown for a while, just out of an abundance of caution. I got an email from my son's school district.
Yeah, Our Lady of
saying,
Grace.
Yeah,
in
Edina.
In Edina.
It's in Edina. And then I got an email from my son's school district there in school today saying that for a period of time, out of an abundance of caution, they had extra security. So these sort of things ripple throughout an entire community. We do want to go to our Gordon Severson, who is live now reporting on this. Gordon, can you tell us where you are and what you've been able to determine?
Yeah, we're here at the corner of Grand Avenue and West Diamond Lake Road, and this is where police are going to be giving us an update in just a couple minutes here. We're expecting it at 10:30. You can see behind me here, there's just dozens of squad cars, a very strong police presence here. Behind us, on the other side that you can't see, dozens more police cars. And, you know, walking over here, I parked on kind of the other side of the school when I got to the scene and came over here to meet up with our photographer who's shooting this right now. And I saw just dozens of families, you know, meeting up with their kids. A lot of parents, you know, obviously panicking, seeing a lot of people that have obviously been crying all morning, a lot of emotions walking over here. And I'm sure it's of a relief from a lot of these parents finally getting to meet up with their kids. And so we're hoping to get some information, some more updated information from police in just a few minutes. I did see a squad pull up here that, you know, might be them, but it's any minute now, so we're going to keep, you know, here at the scene and get you whatever updates we can in just a few minutes.
All right, Gordon, thank you very much. Yeah, stand by. That press conference here is set to start. It's scheduled for 10:30. You know, these things don't always start on time. Yes. Obviously, it's active situation, so they're still gathering information and details, but it should be beginning here within the next few minutes. And then we have another press conference from HCMC planned for 11 o'clock. We should know more about the victims then as well.
Many of those victims taken to HCMC. And you're right. I mean, it's a fluid situation as we're trying to bring you information. It's a fluid situation for Minneapolis police. They are constantly getting new information. They want to make sure the information that they provide to the community is accurate, because that is so important at this point. You want people in the community to know what has happened, to feel safe. And at this point, what they can tell you is that this situation is under control. The shooter is among the people dead. I asked Lou Ragoose, do we know if the shooter took his own life or if there was a confrontation with police officers? At this point, we don't know. That is always, of course, something that you do want to get answers to in a situation like this. Also, the number of casualties. When I say casualty, I don't simply mean those who are deceased. We know that there are people being treated for their injuries as well. So these are questions that we still have. And I'm sure they're also trying to work inside the school. We've seen a number of law enforcement come and go from inside that school of laying out a timeline, what happened, where, and when.
Yes. The initial reports were 20 casualties potentially, but that number is going to fluctuate. You know, things get lost, as Lou mentioned, in the fog of war. You hear the initial reports, and then those numbers are adjusted once investigators receive new information. So probably doesn't make any sense to even give a number here until we hear it officially from police, which in that press conference, which is set to start here in just a couple of minutes. But we have heard from our Lou Ragoose, confirmed by police sources, that at least 3 people are dead, including the shooter, and unfortunately a child included among the dead.
Just awful. Again, he, I think wisely, was being careful as to not give an age or grade level of that child until everyone is accounted for, until parents are reunited with their children. We certainly do not want to cause anyone undue stress or panic, as I know this morning that for about 2.5 hours now, this school community has been going through absolute trauma after a mass shooting at their church and school. Let's see what we can see there now. The crime scene team just pulling up. These are the forensic folks from law enforcement who will go in, who will gather evidence, who will do all of that sort of scientific work to build a case and build a timeline and really help law enforcement understand what happened here.
Yes, also going to be interesting to see what the motive was. You know, the shooter is down, so we're not going to hear from him or her, but you know, as the investigation continues, why would someone carry out such a heinous attack on a church, on a school, on the second day of school? I mean, those are all questions that have to be answered here in the coming days, that we hope will be answered here in the coming days.
Certainly. I mean, there is no good reason. There is absolutely not a reason that would make sense to any rational person, but it is important to try and get to the bottom of how this happened, why this happened, were there signs? And so these are all things that that law enforcement is right now beginning the work of answering. These are long-term investigations with a lot of different sources of information. First priority in a situation like this, securing the scene, making sure people are safe. The victims, getting kids reunited with parents, that we're told is still an ongoing process right now. They're taking people in groups. But then the long process of piecing together the details of the crime begins.
So we should be getting more information here from Minneapolis police in the next few minutes. There was a press conference scheduled for 10:30. You obviously forgive them for their tardiness here. They're obviously gathering more information, trying to speak to folks and trying to make sure they have all their information together before they announce anything to the public. But we are standing by for that press conference here at 10:30 or anytime soon. It should be here in the next few minutes.
At any point. Actually, Lou said that they've just changed the location of that news conference, so we may be waiting a little while longer.
Maybe a little bit longer, yeah. And for anybody watching this morning, I'm sure parents of the kids at that school are already aware of what's going on, but the Reunification Center, 55th and Lyndale, they have resources waiting there for people, victim service teams on site to help people through what is an absolute tragedy for this community.
Yeah, you heard that neighbor speak just a short while ago, talking about hearing a large number of gunshots, something he recognized and was shocked and said, wait, that couldn't be gunshots. This, you know, it's a quiet community, Tangletown. It's densely populated, but a quiet, really tight-knit community. And then later to learn that, you know, those shots are coming from a church and school. I'm being told that, well, I'm not sure what our video there is. We may have been trying to see the Reunification Center, but right now we are looking at crime scene photos, or crime scene team on site. And here is the Reunification Center.
You can see the anguish on people's faces, just awful.
I have said it before. You see that woman clutching her chest. When you know your child or your grandchild or your loved one has been a part of something like this, every moment you wait to reunite with them feels like a lifetime. every single one of these people is not going to feel that their kids are safe until they can hug them, put hands on them, and just let them know how much they love them.
Yeah, you know, as a parent, and I'm not a parent, Lauren, obviously you are, but you wake up and you send your kid to school, and, you know, back in the day when we were kids, you never doubted that you were going to come home safe.
Yeah.
But the way things have evolved over the last couple of decades here, nowadays, you send your kid off to school, and you do have that thought in the back of your mind of, what if this happens? What if that happens? Oh, that can't happen here. It's never going to happen here, until it does happen here, until it does come to your backyard. And now these parents are going to have to deal with the aftermath of that. These kids are going to have to deal with the aftermath of that.
It is such a good point, and it's something communities throughout our entire country have dealt with for years now. Now a school community in South Minneapolis dealing with this. And I think parents can relate to this. Your little kids go to school and you get the email saying that they're going to be doing the active shooter drill that day. And your heart just sinks a little because you think it's so horrible that they have to do that, and you just pray that they'll never ever have to use those skills.
Yeah.
And at this community, today they did.
Yeah, man, it's heart-wrenching. It's absolutely heart-wrenching. This you just have no words. And for as often as this happens in America nowadays, every time it's just a shock to the system. It's just gutting, because you know that, like you mentioned, kids are gonna have to deal with the aftermath of it, and the community is gonna have to heal from this. And some of these kids may have injuries that are life-changing. Some of these adults at the school, instructors and whatnot, may have these injuries that are life-changing.
Yeah, and you know, teachers, in this case it may have been in the church, so perhaps pastors or clergy, they're put in this situation of having to protect these young children. You know, I think as a parent you are so grateful to the teachers for all that they do for your kids, and then you know that in a situation like this, they could be responsible for these kids' lives. And so we have put so much pressure on teachers and clergy and other people who are involved in their lives to not only teach and comfort, but protect in situations like this. You know, we were talking about church communities and how tight-knit they are, and how that is so much a place of peace and hope for people. And earlier today at HCMC, we were able to speak to a pastor who grew up in this neighborhood, but is actually a pastor, a Catholic priest at a different church, who came to the hospital to be with families. Let's hear a little bit of that.
Well, I'm pastor as well at St. Olaf downtown, and when I got the news of the mass shooting at Annunciation, I thought I'd come down to HCMC to comfort the parents or whoever's here, just to be a presence from the Archdiocese with them.
What was your thought when you heard about what happened?
It was horrific. And I grew up in that parish, so it has meaning to me now, but it shouldn't be happening. And what happened on 8th and Hennepin this morning, Lake Street yesterday, something's got to happen here in the city to stop this.
That was Bishop Kevin Kenny there, and he did mention the other shootings that happened, and that's something we were talking about all morning long, if you watch Sunrise this morning, of the 3 shootings that happened over the course of 16 hours or so in Minneapolis. You had one in broad daylight yesterday around 1 o'clock, a person shooting at a group of people, 6 people injured, 1 person killed there. And then later on that night, around 10 o'clock, another person killed in Minneapolis. And then just a few hours later, about 4 hours later, 2 o'clock in the morning, yet another person shot and killed. So it has been a violent 24 hours here in Minneapolis, and this only adds to the pain that the community has seen over the last couple of days.
Right, and then the most recent shooting, this mass shooting at shortly after 8 o'clock this morning at a church and school in the Tangletown neighborhood of Minneapolis. We have been sharing this throughout the morning. We shared it on Sunrise as well. But that mass shooting yesterday afternoon happened across the street from a high school, Cristo Rey High School in Minneapolis. Yet another group of kids, this time teenagers, it's a high school, who were in the middle of their school day and heard gunshots. I mean, the audio of that was shared, dash cams from the community picked it up, 30 gunshots. So kids at that high school heard the shooting yesterday, and now younger kids, this is a K-8 school, Annunciation School, faced with gunfire this morning in their safe place, in their school and church community. We do have public officials reacting to this throughout the morning. Many of the people who represent this area, Senator Amy Klobuchar, I believe, recently tweeted out a statement saying, "I am heartbroken by the horrific violence at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis this morning. My prayers are with the students, teachers, and families, and I am grateful for the first responders who are on the scene."
Yeah, I've heard a number of statements. We've heard from the governor, Governor Walz. We've heard from Mayor Frey. President Trump also chiming in on social media as well. Trying to pull that up here. Also hearing from the director of the FBI, Kash Patel. We are aware of reports of a shooting at a Catholic school in Minnesota. FBI agents are on scene, and we ask everyone to keep potential victims, civilians, or law enforcement in harm's way in your prayers. The FBI will provide updates as more information becomes available. Again, that's from FBI Director Kash Patel.
And this was President Trump on Truth Social. "I have been fully briefed on the tragic shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The FBI quickly responded and they are on the scene. The White House will continue to monitor this terrible situation. Please join me in praying for everyone involved."
You know, the eyes of the nation probably on Minnesota right now, and you never wake up expecting for this to happen in your backyard. You see the news and you see it happen in other cities and other states, and you never know the impact of it until it hits close to home like this. And you could just, the heaviness, the weight that it puts on you and puts on the community is just, it's gut-wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, you feel it right now.
Yeah.
I feel it. Every single person watching feels that. Well, you know that kids have been targeted in their place of learning. It is a truly horrific thing. This has happened around the country in every type of city, town, neighborhood, and school. Parochial schools like this one, public schools, colleges, elementary schools, big towns, small towns, the city of Minneapolis. So there really is nowhere that is immune from this type of violence.
It's everywhere. Can happen anywhere. Let's get back out to our Jessica Hart. She is live on the scene right now. Jessica, I understand you're seeing canines in the area. What's going on?
Yeah, Jason, we saw about 3 canines walking up and down Garfield Avenue here, just kind of searching for any evidence. We actually saw one of the officers and his canine go into the back of a business. They're just kind of combing the area, searching the area. Now, we did have the crime scene team kind of arrive on scene here about 20 minutes ago. And about 10 minutes before they arrived, we actually saw a huge law enforcement presence walk down West 54th Street. I saw ATF, FBI. You were asking about bomb squad earlier. I also saw people in bomb squad vests, Homeland Security, state troopers. I was told those officers were not leaving the scene. They were just relocating somewhere else. The state trooper couldn't tell me exactly where, but there were dozens of law enforcement officers walking down this street in unison. Now, they have still kept a perimeter around the school here. It hasn't really lightened up. We've seen what appears to be some school officials just standing out front here. Now, the 2 ambulances that were parked where the crime scene team is, they've since left, but there are still at least 5 ambulances on site here as families are still reuniting with one another. We haven't seen people walk out from, I've been told they've been kind of staying in the gym, walking out from back behind the gym in about 10 minutes or so, but I did speak with one woman who lives nearby. She was actually with her grandson just out in the yard, and she heard 3 rounds of shots. When she heard that 3rd round of shots, she said she took her grandson inside to her daughter's house. Her daughter didn't necessarily believe it at first, but then they heard the sirens and they knew that something terrible had happened. Now, she had actually come to school here. She got married nearby at the church. Her kids went to school here. So to see this happen in her neighborhood, she told me it's just unimaginable that she saw this. Another woman I also talked with who didn't want to go on camera actually helped escort some of the kids out of the school to safety, and she said she will never forget the look on one of the little girls' faces who was just worried about her siblings. She said she couldn't stop talking about her siblings, and just the fear in her eyes is something that she feels will forever stay with her. Now, there were some people kind of over in this area who were just waiting to get word to see if their loved one that they knew inside was okay, and they found out that this person was. We just actually saw someone walk outside of the school here and just kind of looks like collapsing on the ground. It looks like fire EMS is kind of going over to see if she's okay, but I think she is just kind of reeling from what had happened inside. She's just kind of laying on the ground there. So that just kind of shows you how emotional and difficult this scene is. She just made it only a few steps out of the school before she kind of collapsed into what appeared to be a coworker or a friend's arms. Now, there have been more people kind of walking in and out the front entrance of the school. Looks like school personnel. We've seen police kind of coming in and out here, but there's still that really heavy presence around the perimeter of the school, and just more and more people seem to kind of be coming down, seeing what's going on. They heard what was happening and they just wanted to come be here. Some people, as I mentioned earlier, know people who went to school here or just wanted to see if there was anything they could do to help people in this situation. But again, we are here at the intersection of Garfield Avenue and West 54th Street. We did see some police officers search the neighborhood with canines. They went into the back of a business. And we've also seen just dozens of officers kind of walking down the street here together in unison. So it's still a very somber scene. When you see the kids come out, it's been a while since they've come out from this area. It's just the look of fear and just blank stares across their face, just at the horror that they have just been through. So Lauren, as soon as we learn anything, we'll let you and Jason know immediately. Back to you.
Oh my goodness. Jessica, thank you for that reporting. You paint just such a vivid and horrible picture of the emotion people are experiencing there. A woman collapsing as she walks out of the school. One must imagine from the stress, from the trauma.
Yeah, easy to become overwhelmed by grief of the current situation, knowing what occurred in that building, knowing that people died in that building. I can understand completely that reaction. Just really, really terrible stuff. Again, we are waiting for a press conference here that's supposed to start any minute now from Minneapolis Police. We're told that Chief Brian O'Hara is on the scene right now. So we're going to expect to hear from him and other officials very, very soon here.
At the same time, we are also waiting to hear from doctors at HCMC who have been treating victims, more on the conditions of the people who were taken to the trauma center there. And, you know, condolences continue to pour in, as well as statements from public officials. This from Katie Cashman, a Minneapolis city councilor, who says this morning at Annunciation Church and Catholic School, someone shot and wounded multiple children and staff while they attended morning mass. At this moment, the shooter is contained. Our office is closely monitoring the situation. We have been given a variety of numbers from a variety of sources about the number injured this morning. We're going to be careful with those at this point because this is a situation that is so fluid that even the officers on scene, even law enforcement, is trying to get a handle of what exactly they're dealing with. Lou Raguse tells us from high-level sources that 3 people are dead, including the shooter, and most tragically, including at least 1 child.
Yeah, unimaginable tragedy out there. We're still waiting for the number of total victims. We should hear from HCMC, that press conference scheduled for 11 o'clock. I don't know if they're going to push that back at this point because we still haven't heard from MPD. Obviously, this is still a very fluid situation. Information still coming in to investigators, so apologize for the timing of all this, but in terms of the times of the press conferences and whatnot. But we will get that information to you as soon as it becomes available. As soon as they're up and standing up at the mic, we will be sure to bring that to you. But again, 3 people, according to Lou Raguse and his law enforcement sources, have passed away, including the shooter, and most tragically, that child.
Yes, and we do know others were injured. At this point, we just don't know how many. You are looking now at a live picture from the scene, as well as a map to put into perspective where we are there. You can see Annunciation Church. This is in the Tangletown neighborhood of Minneapolis on 54th Street, west of 35W. And then you can see the Reunification Center on there around 54th and Lyndale. That's where parents are going to reunite with their children. Something Jessica Hart has been witnessing for a long time now as kids are reuniting with their parents. And our Audrey Rousseau sent out just a photo, which to me was so incredibly poignant and heartbreaking.
Striking, very striking.
Striking, yes, that's a great word for it. These are little children. This is a K-8 school. There was a child walking hand in hand with a Minneapolis police officer that barely came up to his elbow. These are little kids, and some were also holding hands with their parents, you know, who are undoubtedly are so relieved that they are safe, but also incredibly traumatized by the fact that they have been wondering now for hours about their kids and knowing that their kid is going to have a long road ahead. A child who's witnessed and experienced something like this is going to be affected by it.
That's not trauma that goes away very easily. That takes a long time, especially if you're seeing your classmates wounded in front of you. You're having the fear of having to hide in a desk or barricade a door. That's not something that that's not something anybody should be experiencing, much less a child. So, I mean, you think of the aftermath of this and what it's going to do to these kids' psyches. You know, Jessica was saying that she saw these kids walking out and just blank expressions on their faces. You could see the fear on their faces, and that's not going away anytime soon. These kids go to school thinking that it's a place of safety, it's a place of fun, it's a place of learning, and they're not going to see it that way for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and a church community also is so important to people, people who have been longtime parishioners of Annunciation Church. These are people who are going to be impacted by it. There is an 8:15 Mass every Wednesday morning at Annunciation Church, and this morning we're told by multiple people there was an all-school Mass happening at that time, a back-to-school Mass. I said earlier I went to Catholic school. That back-to-school Mass is something that is, you know, a universal experience for the school. You come together, you sing, you pray for a great year ahead, and you're thankful to be back together. And today, according to law enforcement, according to Richfield Police, a person all in black with a rifle walked in and opened fire.
Yeah, and you know, with this happening, religion and all that is going to be something you have to lean on. You have to lean on that faith in the aftermath of that, because what else can you rely on? A lot of people go to church for that comfort, and it's that same church building, it's that same church community that you have to rely on to help you get through this tragedy.
That's why I thought it was so interesting and so impactful that Catholic priest, who is from the area, grew up near Annunciation Church and is now, I believe he said, a priest at St. Olaf Church in Minneapolis, walked over to HCMC to be there with the parents, to just offer comfort and prayer with them as they waited for word on their loved ones.
Yeah, and we're going to need a lot of that from our community to help lift up these families, help lift up these parents, help lift up these kids, because they're going to be going through a lot here in the aftermath of this. So the community is going to be necessary and crucial to help us through this tragedy.
Gordon Severson is also at the scene, saying he's seeing multiple current city council members at the scene, trying to get updates from police at the scene. They're also waiting near the press conference. We are awaiting a news conference from Minneapolis Police. We're told Chief O'Hara is on the scene. You know, they're going to answer the questions that they can. This is early in their investigation. First step is make sure the area is secure, make sure victims are accounted for, make sure these children are reunited with their families. Second step is piecing together this investigation. Who is this gunman who we are told is dead? What led to this shooting? Did the gunman act alone? There are so many questions that they do need to piece together. Now, earlier we had some reports, unconfirmed, that there may have been some sort of explosive devices. Lou Raguse said his sources had not confirmed that from him. A photojournalist at the scene, David Peterlin's, telling us he has seen St. Paul PD rolling in with a bomb squad unit. So if that may be a precautionary thing at this point, we don't want to cause any alarm. Likely precautionary, but this is the sort of thing that our crews on the scene are seeing.
You would figure if, you know, there was an active device there, the area would be evacuated and whatnot. So that may completely be precautionary.
Yeah, because you know, there are blocks, about 2 blocks, Lou said, in terms of a perimeter. But as you can see, our cameras are relatively close to the front doors of the school. We do have Lou Raguse back on the phone, who has been talking to sources all morning. Lou, what can you tell us? What have you learned?
Well, right now I'm making my way over to the area where the presser is, the press conference where Chief O'Hara is expected to give us some confirmed details. And I'll just explain kind of what the scene is like around here. So Jessica has been doing a lot of reporting. Okay.
Lou, it sounds like the news conference is about to get started. You see Chief O'Hara and Mayor Fry there. We're going to listen in.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act. Children are dead. There are families that have a deceased child. You cannot put into words the gravity, the tragedy, or the absolute pain of this situation. We are a Minneapolis family. But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. I'm so deeply saddened, and I'm so sorry to the families that I know are suffering right now. My ask is to everyone, stand by them. Love them. These families have forever been changed, and we've all been changed with them. We need to do everything possible to support them through this time. We have a family resource center that has been set up. I'm grateful for all of the law enforcement agencies from a number of different jurisdictions, all the different departmental support that we've received. They're going to be working tirelessly. There's also a family resource center that is being set up as we speak to make sure that we're there for everybody. Again, to the families that are suffering, to those that have experienced loss, I'm so deeply sorry. We're going to be with you every step of the way. We love you. This kind of act of evil should never happen, and it happens far too often. The chief will provide additional details.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N, O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation? Any notes or any other information you might have left behind?
So we were looking, the question was, what can be said about the shooter? We believe it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive known criminal history, and we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah.
Chief, do we know if they were former students? Do you have about
how many children? There were, I don't have an exact, the question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them.
Do we know if the shooter,
other than the weapons, what
was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did he leave anything behind other than the weapon? Either like a note?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched, and we will be conducting other searches related to this.
And what was that vehicle and where was it parked?
Inside the parking lot here.
Is there parking lot?
Yep.
There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep.
Is that correct?
So the question was, neighbors had said that the door to the church had been barricaded. The shooter approached on one side of the church building, and on that side, at least 2 doors, it appears there had been like a 2x4 placed. So not all of the doors around the building, but on the side where the shooter did fire.
And on the outside?
On the outside, yes.
Is there a reason why officers are going? Are there any explosives that were found?
The question was there any explosives? There were reports of that. There were no explosives or improvised devices that we found. I do believe there was one, I guess you would call it a smoke bomb, like not an explosive, but a sort of a firework that would release smoke.
And which side of the building? North, south?
The side that is closest to us, here, on this side. Yeah.
Is there a reason why agents are also at these nearby homes?
I don't have specific information on that I can release.
Was he dead from a gunshot wound, this suspect?
The question was, is he dead from a gunshot wound? The answer is yes. We believe he took his own life in the parking lot.
Was this outside or both inside that he was shooting?
The question was he shooting outside and inside? He was absolutely shooting outside of the building on the side of the church, inside through the windows. It appears he may have gone inside, but I don't believe we've located any casings inside the building. So I'm not certain if he fired also while inside. It appears, if not all, most of the shooting happened outside the building.
Chief, is this shooting related to any other shootings that happened in the last 24
So,
hours?
yeah, Taylor's asking, is this related to any of the other shootings? This does not appear to be related to any other shooting in the city.
Do you know approximately how many rounds were fired?
The question was how many rounds. I would say it's in the dozens. We don't have an exact count. There's a sidewalk on the outside as well as a grassy area, so obviously we are going through and taking our time to process the scene.
Was he firing just one weapon, like the rifle? Or
the question was he firing one weapon? We believe he had fired all three. He had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol.
Chief, was this individual licensed to conceal and carry? Did he have any background prior?
Were the weapons, was he lawfully carrying the weapons? I don't have that information, and I don't have any information on any significant criminal history either.
Was he dressed at all in any tactical type of gear or anything?
It appeared he had some black clothing on, his cargo-type pants. I guess you could interpret that as, you know, however you like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for helping us to get the information out today. We have a lot more work that needs to be done. We will return back later today to provide more details as they become available, and we'll let you know how you can know about that in the moments to come. Thank you. How can the public help?
Okay, we are just listening to a news conference from Mayor Jacob Fry, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, and oh my goodness, the information shared was, I think, worse than what we even anticipated here. The headline, Chief O'Hara confirming that there were 17 people injured, 14 of them children, 2 of them in critical condition, and sadly, 2 children were killed in this shooting.
An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old killed while they were sitting in the pews. They were there for a mass. This mass was marking the first week of school. All these kids gathered around, worshiping, and then this gunman approaches from the side of the building, apparently barricades a couple of the doors outside of the building, and then starts shooting this rifle through the windows.
Yeah, shooting through the windows, dozens of shots fired. They don't know exactly how many yet. We're told that the suspect was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. He was wearing all black. And then that suspect took his own life in the rear of the church. He died of what police believe was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Brian O'Hara, the police chief, says the calls came in just before 8:30 a.m. about a shooting at a mass. When MPD first responders came in, they came and tried to assist children, some of whom were hiding in the building, as you would imagine. We don't know exactly how many kids were inside the church at the time of this shooting. Dozens. He said it was the school community gathered together, as you said, Jason, to celebrate the beginning of the school year with a mass. And now, simply hours later, this happened just before 8:30 a.m., 2 of those children, an 8 and a 10-year-old, are dead. 14 others are injured, 2 critical, and then there were an additional 3 people injured as well.
Yeah, not too much about the suspect. We don't know too much about the suspect, and we do know he's in his early 20s, no extensive criminal history, left behind a vehicle, and Chief O'Hara said other searches are coming. We don't know if there's any notes or a manifesto or anything like that, but the chief does say more searches are coming. Also, no devices found. The chief did say that there was a smoke bomb or a firework that emitted smoke of some sort, probably something that the shooter was going to use to disorient folks in the building. But the chief also said most of the shooting happened inside of the building. It seems as if he fired most of the shots through the window. At some point may have gone inside, but no evidence that there was a lot of shots fired from inside of the building. Most of what he did was from outside of the building.
Yeah, and MPD still at this point trying to piece this together. This is very early on. As you said, they're conducting multiple searches. There was a car that the shooter used that is left at the scene that police officers are going through right now. At this point, they don't know if the guns he had, again, a rifle, a pistol, and a shotgun, were obtained legally, if he was legally allowed to carry those, but he was an adult with, they said, minimal criminal history, so likely was legally able to carry weapons. Again, you could hear the emotion, I think, in Chief O'Hara's voice. You could see the anger that Mayor Fry experienced as he talked about this shooting, this attack on children in Minneapolis, on a Minneapolis neighborhood, on Minneapolis families. And I think that's how everyone feels here. The mayor called it an act of evil against kids who were literally praying
at
that point.
You know, you hear in the aftermath of this thoughts and prayers to such and such community. And the mayor flat out said he doesn't want to talk about thoughts and prayers. Those kids were literally in that church praying when all this went down. And he mentioned that these families are forever changed and, quote, we are changed with them.
Asked, of course, for support for the school community, for the families of the wounded and the families of the deceased. There are families out there of an 8 and 10-year-old child right now who have gotten the worst possible news. They sent their kids to school this morning, and now they know that their 8 and 10-year-old are dead by a gunman inside the church.
That they're not coming home. It just, no words. No words. Man. So you just heard there in that press conference, again, just to recap here, this all happened just before 8:30, Minneapolis police getting that call, that gunman standing outside of the church, shooting through the windows, barricading a couple of the doors outside of the church. 17 injured here, 14 of them being children. And as you mentioned, Lauren, 2 children killed, 8 and 10 years old.
Yeah, we are awaiting a news conference from HCMC, who received some of these victims. We also have a statement from Children's Minnesota saying that they have 6 children there that they are treating. And now we are going to go to that news conference, I believe, at the hospital right now.
Here, Christine Hill with Public Relations here at Hennepin Healthcare. I have Dr. Tom Wyatt. He is the chair of emergency medicine here at Hennepin County Medical Center. Dr. Wyatt, he's going to give you an update.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Wyatt. I'm an emergency physician. I'm chair of emergency medicine here at Hennepin Healthcare. I'm here to provide you with a brief update of the care that was delivered here at Hennepin Healthcare related to this tragic event that occurred this morning. We first received a page that we were going to have a mass casualty incident at 8:46 a.m. this morning. That gave us time to mobilize all of our resources and prepare our teams. We are a level 1 trauma center, and we prepare and we train for this. Having said that these incidents are never easy. We've had 2 in the last 24 hours that have occurred, these mass casualty incidents. The one today, we received a total of 11 patients from this incident. 2 of them were adult patients, 9 pediatric patients. 4 of them required the operating room. And up to this point in time, there have been no fatalities related to any of those patients that were brought to our organization. I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medical medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved. Hennepin EMS brought in all the critical patients from that scene to our organization, and we were very lucky to have 2 emergency medicine, emergency medical services directors that were on scene and able to provide us with really important information that, again, helped us to prepare for this event. So I don't have any individual or specific information about the patients at this time for you, so that's all I can share. Thank you for being here. Any questions?
You said they were in critical condition?
7 were brought in as critical patients, and at this time, I don't know the updates on what the conditions are of many of them. 4 of them required the operating room, as I said. There were, again, 9 of the 11 patients were pediatric ages. I can't remember the exact name, the exact ages. I believe it's 6 all the way up to 14. That's the range.
Can you tell us a little bit about what types of teams you had working this morning, how many people it takes to treat us?
Yeah, you know, whenever that type of a page goes out, again, it really puts into motion a lot of a big response from all of the teams. And so because we're a level 1 trauma center, we have to, mobilize certain types of resources like, operating rooms and the surgical services. We have to have emergency providers and nurses. We have to, mobilize things like the laboratory and the blood bank.
So there's a lot of planning, and again, a lot of exercises we do throughout the year to prepare for these events. And unfortunately, we respond to many of them throughout the year.
Can you talk about the injuries at all, or any type of what you're seeing here with some of these patients?
I can't get into specifics, but we are dealing with gunshot wound injuries from apparently a high-velocity weapon. And, gunshot wounds can be very problematic because they can involve multiple body systems. And again, they require a lot of resources to manage. But again, we see a lot of gunshot wounds here at Hennepin Healthcare, and we're among the best in the nation every year at managing penetrating trauma. So we are used to seeing them.
Can you tell us where the status of the 11? Are any of them still in surgery?
I don't know the status of that. I can't share that with you at this time.
Was anyone shot more than once?
I can't share that information with you at this time.
Can you confirm the families of some of the victims have made their way here?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of effort to stand up a reunification center across the street here at our clinical specialty care building. And so to my knowledge, I believe all or almost all of the families and loved ones have been reunited with patients and know their status.
Do you know if anyone is being treated at any other locations?
My understanding was we had a lot of the non-critical patients that went to Children's Hospital, and I believe one went to Masonic Children's Hospital as well. I don't know the status of any of those patients.
Can you speak to the toll it takes on physicians here who have to handle these types of cases of mass Catholic cases within hours?
Yeah, it does take a toll. Thank you for asking that. Asking that question. I think. Again, we have psychologists that we have dedicated to our emergency department to help with our providers and our nurses and other workers that manage these types of events. Again, we've had 2 mass casualty events happen in the last 24 hours. I mean, that does take a toll. But we also have to recognize that we are here as a critical resource for our community, and we have to take time to process, the care that we deliver in these situations, and we have to be able to move forward because we are obviously needed.
And none of those patients have been discharged?
Not to my knowledge.
You said there were 11 total, and 9 of them were pediatrics ages 6 to 14, but 7 were in critical condition. Are all of those that are pediatric, those 6 to 14, are all of those the critical condition, or are the ones that are older also in critical condition?
I don't want to misspeak here. I believe that all of the pediatric patients were the ones that were in a critical condition. Yes.
And did I get my numbers right in saying that the numbers
You did.
are?
You did.
Can you give us your specific title one more time, Doctor?
It's Thomas Wyatt, Chair of Emergency Medicine at Hennepin Healthcare.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check out our newsroom too, because I will be posting the exact information on the patients, their conditions, just those general conditions and the numbers. The Hennepin Healthcare Newsroom. Thanks for coming.
Do you anticipate any other updates?
I'm hoping to give another update later. Just again, general conditions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you just heard there from officials over at HCMC, Dr. Thomas Wyatt, talking about the medical response to all of this. They say they received the page at 8:46 a.m. They say their 11-1 trauma center, they were prepared for it, but it doesn't make it any easier, especially considering the fact that we just had a mass shooting yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, where 6 people were shot. And so they were dealing with that already, and now this call comes in and just adds to the patient load and just adds to what they're dealing with over there. 11 patients right now at HCMC.
Yeah, and he added some details about those 11 patients. 2 of them are adults. 9 are pediatric patients, ages 6 to 14 years old. 7 of those patients, all pediatric, were in critical condition when they were brought in. He does not know what condition they're in now, but they were dealing with gunshot wounds, he said, from a high-velocity weapon. So the injuries that they were dealing with when children and 2 adults were brought to HCMC were gunshot wounds from a high-velocity weapon. We also know 6 others were brought to Children's Minnesota. Those children, he believed, were in non-critical condition.
Okay, so 17 total injured. Out of that 17, 14 being children. So that's the latest from HCMC. Let's get back out to our Lou Ragus. We have him on the phone to react to all this information that we're getting in. And, oh, he's actually live out there. Lou, just your reaction to all this. What are you hearing out there in the field?
Well, I just listened to the same information you did, and I think you guys hit the nail on the head right off the bat when you said that this is as bad or as potentially worse than we were expecting based on the preliminary information. The 17 people shot is close to the 20 that we were initially hearing. Both of the victims who are deceased were children. I earlier had been told that one was a 4th grader, and that aligns with the 10-year-old along with the 8-year-old, who are both deceased. I can speak a little bit to they mentioned high velocity weapon, because that mass shooting yesterday that we reported on involved high velocity gun rounds that were fired from like an AR style. The ammunition is called .223, which is a common ammunition to fire from a weapon like that. What makes it much worse in a mass shooting situation like this is the damage that those rounds can do to the human body when shot. When I was interviewing this former FBI agent yesterday, I asked him to just compare to me if you were to be hit by a stray bullet from a weapon like that versus, say, a 9mm handgun, which is low velocity. He talked about how from a handgun, those are highly survivable wounds if it doesn't hit a major organ right away, because of how much the round will slow down even from hitting clothing and stuff like this. But a high velocity weapon, even shooting through a window like that, it causes so much damage to a person if they are hit by it. And it's much harder for the medical workers the surgeons to deal with once those patients are at the hospital. So I felt like it was encouraging news that none of the critical patients who've arrived at HCMC have died, and so far they have all survived, and that's in the early stages of the surgeries and everything that they're going through. That is encouraging news. Out here, I am similar to the spot that Jessica Hart was reporting from earlier. Behind me, you can see the school itself. I'll step off a little bit here so you can see the school itself is closest to us, and the church where the shooting took place is a little bit further back. You can see the steeple back there of the church to give you a little bit of a frame of reference of where this took place. And of course, as you heard from Chief O'Hara, everyone was gathered for that mass, so everyone was in one place. I heard one question at the news conference regarding motive of the shooter, and while, you know, as we think of the word motive, like what would drive somebody to do something like this, that may take time, I guess, to figure out. But one thing is clear, is that the intention seemed to be to kill children, because this was a gathering of children all in one place. And as Chief O'Hara said, there were steps taken to block exits that people could have escaped from when the gunshots began, and obviously was an ambush style cowardly act, as Chief O'Hara put it, as the gunman was firing from a window, through the window, at the children inside. So outside here, you know, people are learning the bad news, as we all have officially, that 2 children have been killed, many others wounded, and outside it's really kind of eerily quiet, I would say, as people are shocked. People are showing up to see if there's anything that they can do. Yep, you got it. They're just extending the area, the crime scene, if you will, just to keep people from getting too close to the school itself as the investigation continues. Any questions you guys have, feel free to shoot them my way.
Lou, thank you for your reporting out there. Yeah, I think you bring up such a great point about the high velocity weapon and the type of damage that can do to a body. We just learned from HCMC, the 9 pediatric victims who were brought there between the ages of 6 and 14. So we think about the size of a 6-year-old and the damage a high velocity bullet from one of these rifles can do to that child, it is a credit to the emergency physicians at HCMC that they have been brought in. They were brought in critical, but at this point, everyone who was brought there is still alive. They are treating these children, 11 patients overall. And as Lou talked about, the chief calling this act cowardly, a man who pulled up to a church and fired through the windows at children inside praying.
I don't know if we still have Lou. I just wanted to kind of ask about the investigation process. We know the FBI there is on scene. Would they take over the investigation from here? How does that process work? If you can kind of take us behind the scenes of that.
That's a great question. It's best described as it'll be a multifaceted investigation. The federal authorities are the FBI and the ATF, and they are involved because it involves somebody illegally using a weapon, obviously. And so that part of the investigation will be figuring out where this gunman got that weapon, whether the gunman obtained it legally or not. Of course, he used it illegally, so that part is certain. They will handle mostly that part of the investigation, while it should remain a Minneapolis police investigation when it comes to the murder, the mass murder and attempted murders that occurred here at the church. And so multifaceted between Minneapolis police, the FBI and the ATF, and there's even the BCA crime lab van. The mobile crime lab is back there to help with evidence collection. And so, like I said in my first phone call with you guys, it's really an all hands on deck. I saw even a Minnetonka police officer, there's Richfield police officers, you name it, offering an all hands approach. The investigation itself, though, will most likely at this point remain with Minneapolis police with the help of ATF, the FBI, and the BCA.
And Lou, in his news conference, Chief O'Hara did say that there is a car on scene that they believe belonged to the gunman here, that they are searching. Have you been able to get eyes on that or seen the search of that car?
That's a great question, and no, I have not. The part where the shooting took place right now is the most well blocked off area for obvious reasons. If Gordon Severson is able to do a live hit with you, his crew over there with Mitchell Yale is the crew that's closest to that spot, so they would be ones to ask if they have eyes on that. One thing to note is that in a situation like this, they can get into a vehicle like that immediately to search because of exigent circumstances, emergent circumstances, and then they likely will get after they tow it away, a warrant to do a more comprehensive search of the vehicle. But the first thing they need to do is figure out if there are explosives or anything like that. And so I'm certain that's what the initial search of that vehicle consisted of. And then there'll be, more to be done after that, including whether there's any notes or anything left behind, additional weapons and so forth in the vehicle.
Lou, thank you for that insight, and thanks for your reporting out there. We're going to let you go now, continue to do some reporting at that area. This is a situation that's developing, although we certainly have gotten a lot of new information in about the last half hour. So Lou, thank you. One thing I do want to share, we received an email from a viewer who was a witness, they say, and I'm sharing this because I think it highlights the bravery of some of the people involved here. And this person, his name is Sean Olson, said he came up on the school and saw that the first few police officers were just getting there. Before I knew it, I was just west of the entrance to the church doors. He saw the kids piled up on each other, crouching with their heads down, and teachers huddled over the top of them, putting their lives at risk, and clearly scared. Meanwhile, he saw cops running in with their guns drawn and going straight into the church. And I just wanted to share that because I think that witness account highlights the bravery of teachers who are tasked not only with teaching kids, but in this situation, putting their own lives at risk to protect them. And also with officers not knowing what the situation is at this point and running in.
Yeah, officers, obviously are the first responders. That's why we call them first responders, the first to respond to the scene. They don't know what they're running into, but they run into it anyway because that is what they do. And as far as the teachers, I mean, you send your kid to school and you expect them to come back to you, and your teacher is that line of defense, in a way of that. They're protecting their students. They're there to be there for their students, and it just shows how much they care for those students, how much they care for their well-being. To pile on top of them, to be that literal human shield for them, just shows the selflessness of our educators.
Absolutely, it does. And I think, we've been focusing on the children who were hurt. Of course, we know that 2 children now were killed, an 8 and a 10-year-old. There were 17 injuries overall. Most of them were children, 14 of them. But that means that there are also adults who were injured. And we do not know who they are. Were they teachers? Were they teachers who were also in that church praying with children to start their school year, potentially putting themselves in harm's way?
So just to recap here, it's 11:30 here on this Wednesday, and we are continuing to follow this breaking news, this mass shooting, this senseless shooting that happened just before 8:30 this morning, happened during Mass over at Annunciation Catholic Church. This Mass was marking the first week of school. The shooter approaches the school from the side of the school, barricades a couple of the doors, and starts firing shots into the windows there during this Mass, this second day of school Mass. He brought a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol with him. He used the rifle to shoot through the glass. An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old killed in the process here. They're all sitting in the pews, and their lives end in just an instant.
At the same time, 17 people injured, including 14 children. We know from HCMC that 7 of them were critical when they were brought in there. Pediatric patients between the ages of 6 and 14, all with gunshot wounds from a high-velocity weapon, that rifle that you mentioned. And you heard the chief and the mayor both talking about the community and the need to sort of wrap them in love and support after such a traumatic thing. Just a short while ago, Chris Rapsky talked on the phone with former state senator, Jeff Hayden. His kids went to school at this K-8 school years ago, but he still can describe a little bit the community there and how they're a family. Let's listen in.
My daughter went there from the 1st to the 8th grade in the 2000s. She's 24 now, almost 24. My son went there for middle school. So we have a lot of friends and family, or what we consider family, that they have lifelong bonds. We have some friends right now that don't live too far from there that are in front of the school. And what my daughter told me was that they have Mass every Wednesday, and then this is the welcome Mass that they have on Wednesday. So the school or the cathedral, the church would have been full of the community as well as all of the children. All of the children would go to Mass, and this would be their welcome Mass, but they did it every week. So, the only thing we know is what you guys have, others have been reporting. Someone came in and started shooting, but the point of that, I guess, is that, it could have easily, in a different time been my own children or my friends' children, because all of the kids from kindergarten to 8th grade would be in that Mass. This thing touches you, man, in ways, and every time it happens, that same stuff just all floods you, like the same feeling floods you. So I'm not sure what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, but I just think that the amount of gun violence that's happening in this country and the availability, sounds like this person had a rifle. I don't know if it was an AR or what. I've worked on this stuff, since at least since I got back in the community because of gun violence. I worked on it after my sister died. I've worked on it legislatively and professionally, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down.
You hear former state senator Jeff Hayden talking about when his kids went there to Annunciation and the significance of that back-to-school welcome Mass that they were experiencing this morning when a gunman started firing in through the windows at children in the pews.
It's supposed to be a moment of joy, a time of reunion after not seeing your friends for the entire summer. Everybody's in there to fellowship and to worship together and to sing together. And this is the very last thing you would ever expect on the second day of school. And as he mentioned, there's this feeling of helplessness. Where do you go from here? What do you do? This is something that keeps happening over and over in this country, and there's just this feeling of helplessness for so many people, especially parents that are sending their kids to school not knowing if they're going to make it back home.
Absolutely. It happens in communities across the country, all sorts of different types of school, big towns, small towns, now in the Tangletown neighborhood of Minneapolis at a Catholic elementary or a Catholic K through 8 school there. We are continuing to follow this breaking news with reporters on the scene. We will be checking back with them in a short while. We do want to update you on the conditions of the people who were shot. We know that at least 7 of them were critical when brought in, 9 pediatric patients, 6 between the ages of 6 and 14, 2 adults. That was 11 patients, adds up to 11 patients brought to HCMC, another 6 at Children's Minnesota. Those were told non-critical injuries.
And you heard from the Dr. Wyatt that spoke there a few minutes ago. He was saying that this is the second mass shooting in the last 24 hours. It's enough to deal with one. We had a shooting yesterday where 6 people were shot in broad daylight, brought to the hospital. 1 person died. And now they're having to deal with this on top of that. It strains the resources. And, you know, he kind of spoke to the emotion of it. I mean, as a doctor, you're seeing kids come in with these just horrific injuries, and you have to treat them, and you have to work to save their lives, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
And we are certainly thankful for their efforts. As he said, 11 patients brought in with gunshot wounds from a high-velocity weapon. All of those patients brought to HCMC are still alive.
Yes.
And so we are thankful to those doctors and nurses and staff there, as I'm sure these families are.
Still alive. Unfortunately, some of the wounds they have, those may never heal,
Mental,
which is great.
emotional,
Mental, emotional,
the trauma.
physical. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of that, our Jessica Hart has been at the school throughout this morning and has witnessed some of these reunifications. So emotional, so trying for these parents who have spent hours just waiting to be reunited with their kids. Jessica, what are you seeing now?
Lauren, we got pushed back about a block from where we were earlier this morning. So we were down there by 54th and Garfield. Police asked all of us to move back as they kind of expanded the perimeter of this scene. You can see they're still kind of blocking off all of the entrances to the school, but it's not as many first responder vehicles as we saw earlier this morning. About 3 FBI agents just walked right by us. I asked if they were kind of headed home for the day, and they simply said no. So from that reaction, I could tell that they're going to be here for a while. I also talked with the woman who lives just a few houses down. She was not home during the time of the shooting, but she tells me that her children were, and they heard everything. She says they don't go to school here, they go to Wyndham, and they start school next week. And what's really scaring her right now is just the motive. She wants to know, why would someone do this? Did they go to school here? Did they live nearby? I know those were questions that were asked at the press conference that we're still waiting and working to get an answer on. Right now, the scene over here is really quieted down quite a bit here. We haven't seen really any families walking this way in quite some time as police have expanded the perimeter here. Now they're not letting anyone get in or out of this area, so they are letting vehicles leave. We are right next to a grocery store, Kowalski, so they're letting cars get out, but no one is allowed to come in. Police also keep walking up and down the streets here, just kind of patrolling the area. It doesn't look like they're searching for any evidence as they were this morning. We saw kind of canines walking around here. And something else too is that all the officers and law enforcement, they're walking in groups. We just saw kind of a couple of groups walk down the street. I haven't seen anyone really walking around this scene by themselves. Now we've seen Minneapolis Police, Park Police, Minneapolis Fire, ATF, FBI, Homeland. We did see someone with bomb squad earlier today as well, even though the police chief, Brian O'Hara, confirmed there were no explosives found on this scene here. It's still a very active scene, but it has quieted down quite a bit since that press conference wrapped up, but people are still patrolling the area. It looks like school officials have been coming in and out of the school building as well, but still 2 people at the front entrance. There's another police officer at a secondary entrance. So it's been very quiet over here. We haven't seen too much action. So as soon as we see something new or learn something a little bit different, we'll keep you updated. And actually, as I just kind of said that, I'll have to step out of the way here shortly. There's a Red Cross vehicle actually making its way down here to probably set up to help people who are in need. So I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, Jessica, thank you for your reporting there on the scene throughout the morning. Appreciate it. You know, we do have reporters all around that area. That includes our Gordon Severson, who was at that news conference with Mayor Fry and Chief O'Hara. He's on the side of the building, I believe, Gordon, closest to where this gunman opened fire through windows. And I'm curious what you can tell us about the investigation happening there, and if you have been able to see this vehicle that police are searching that the gunman supposedly left behind.
Yeah, I haven't been able to see anything at the church. We actually just did an interview just a second ago, just on the street here, that I wanted to share with you all. We spoke with a woman who is a nanny for a few kids, and she was actually driving to work this morning and just happened to be kind of at the wrong place at the wrong time, drove through this scene just after it had happened, and she kind of got roped into the scene and was kind of told that she has to kind of stay in this area, and her car is still there by the school. She actually, called her mom, and her mom is here with her, and just kind of dealing with this whole situation. And she was, obviously very, emotional, working with kids herself. She didn't quite know exactly what was going on when she got caught up in this scene and was told she couldn't leave for her own safety. And, during the interview, her mom shared just one of those heartbreaking moments with us, saying that she got the call just a couple, hour or so ago from her daughter saying, Mom, I want you to know I'm safe, but something terrible happened, and I'm stuck here, and I'm afraid. And she said that's the call that you just never want to receive as a parent, and she stayed on the line with her daughter, talking her through it. She talked, this nanny, this young woman talked about seeing these parents running into the school, bringing their kids out, and just the emotional nature of that. And she said it just really took a toll on her, seeing so many parents going in one after the other, and those families reuniting after all of this that happened. And so she's, just a couple feet from us right now, in the shade, just kind of processing everything. And I'm sure there's just hundreds of people that, didn't have kids that go to the school, go to this church, but are in the neighborhood or caught up in this. It's just amazing to think of how many people were affected by this, that, indirectly in other ways, and a lot of emotions here, a lot of people just trying to process what's going on. I'm sure a lot of parents watching this right now, getting their kids ready for school, trying to process all of this right now. And so it's just, really heavy being here at the scene, and just, just a few hundred feet away from us, knowing what happened and still figuring everything out and getting the details from police. I know all of us that are parents here at the station are also trying to figure this out as well.
Yeah. Gordon, thank you for sharing that. You talk about phone calls no one wants to get. Let's keep at the forefront the phone call or the in-person visit that two families got today, the family of an 8 and a 10-year-old who were killed in this shooting while sitting in the pews there. And Gordon, we will let you go, continuing to report on this from the scene, but you can't imagine. It is absolutely incomprehensible, the grief and the shock that they must be feeling right now, that they sent their kids off for the beginning of the school year. These are parents who chose Annunciation School, and likely because they appreciated the tight-knit community, the church community, and their kids are sitting in the pews worshiping for the back-to-school mass, and a gunman comes and shoots through the window.
They probably thought it was a safe place. It's a church building. It's a place that provides that comfort that maybe a public school wouldn't provide, and that's obviously not the case here this morning. And you wonder, other parents tomorrow morning, when you wake your kids up and it's time for them to go to school, this is going to be in the back of your mind, no doubt, because these parents this morning had no idea they were going to wake up this morning and send their kids off to school, this 8-year-old and this 10-year-old, and they weren't going to come back home later this afternoon.
Absolutely. Now, to mention that there are families of other children now sitting at the hospital as they undergo surgeries and treatment for gunshot wounds. Just to bring everyone up to speed here, the gunman in this situation is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police believe at this point he was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. At this point, they have no real indication of a motive or any connection to this school or the school community. They're doing searches trying to learn more about that. They do know he was in his early 20s and he does not have an extensive criminal history. So this investigation is still in its very early phases. So as the community wraps around these families, as the hospitals and the medical professionals work on healing these children's bodies, and the three adults who were wounded, healing their bodies, the police investigation is just now beginning to piece together the tragedy that happened this morning at Annunciation Church and School.
We heard from Mayor Fry during that press conference. We heard from Chief O'Hara. He gave all the details. We heard from Mayor Fry to begin the press conference, and I think emotional is safe to say. I think he was angry. We'll let you hear that and hear what he had to say about the situation.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act. Children are dead. There are families that have a deceased child. You cannot put into words the gravity, the tragedy, or the absolute pain of this situation. We are a Minneapolis family. But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
I've rarely seen him that emotional. I've been here for about 3 years and seen many press conferences and many statements from him, but you could see just how much this tragedy today was just getting to him. And he talked about how these kids were literally praying. We talk about thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying when this happened.
Yeah, absolutely, making that point. And it's not just emotion, it's anger. I mean, the fact that this happened in his community to Minneapolis families. And I think that's the feeling so many of us have. You see these situations and people want to know the motive, want to know the why, when in fact there is no rational good reason for this. It's evil. It is an act that should never happen. And Chief O'Hara touched on that as well, talking about this as a cowardly act, as an act of evil. Let's hear what he had to say.
This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack.
You could hear the emotion in Chief O'Hara's voice, hear his voice catching even moments there. His eyes certainly looked as though there had been emotion. I certainly relate. I felt the same way this morning.
We all did.
But this is a man who has been a police officer for his entire career. He has seen a lot of terrible things, I have no doubt. And this has shaken him to his core.
I mean, this is about as terrible as it gets. Kids worshiping in a church for a back-to-school mass, being shot in the pews while they sat. It doesn't get any worse than that. And he mentioned that this person being a coward. He made a point to use that word several times. I mean, this person came up and barricaded several doors, didn't even go inside, shot just indiscriminately from outside of the church through windows. That's pure evil. There's no other way to put it.
There is no other way. There is no other word to use. Yeah, and that is the word that Mayor Fry used. It is the word Chief O'Hara used. It is the word and the feeling I imagine so many of these families and people who were victimized by this person are using at this time.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So a long investigation to follow here. This is going to be an active crime scene for a while. They actually moved our crews back here a couple of blocks to expand the perimeter a little bit. But this is going to be a very long day, a long week for investigators, for medical personnel. We have two different hospitals, HCMC and Children's, that are treating patients right now. 17 victims here, 17 people injured, 14 of them children, 2 of them right now in critical condition. A lot of work for those medical personnel. They're going to be working very hard to at least try to mend them to the best of their ability.
And this reverberating throughout the country. We have had statements this morning from President Trump, from the director of the FBI, as well as local officials, the governor and the local senators, Amy Klobuchar, Tina Smith, all weighing in on this, expressing their horror, their shock, and their condolences to the families here. I know our Ian Russell has also been out reporting this morning. Ian, it looks to me like you are at HCMC right now. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Lauren, you're right. We've been here for the past few hours now. I got down here about 9:15 or so, about 9:30 in that ballpark, and there was still a lot of law enforcement, some Hennepin County sheriffs, some MPD officers who were down here kind of staging as these ambulances were brought in from that church on the south side of town here with these patients coming in. Since then, as you can see behind me, the road has opened back up as things have quieted down a little bit out here. We heard from HCMC officials not too long ago who gave us an update on the number of patients that they've seen coming in from that shooting. They told me that there were 11 people total that were here. 9 of them are pediatric, between the ages of 6 and 14, just a difficult number to hear. And they clarified to us that 7 of those pediatrics, they believe 7 of them came in critical condition. We also heard from Children's Minnesota not too long ago that they have 6 kids in their care, but obviously just a terrible, heartbreaking situation when you talk about anyone being shot, but especially kids who are coming in as they fight for their lives. So we just listened back to that press conference to make sure we weren't missing anything. We also saw that 4 of them, 4 of these patients required an operating room. They told us that there is a reunification center that was opened up across the street here for families to be able to come in, at least get some information about their kids, their family members, as they are being treated here. But as I mentioned, just an awful, terrible day for Minneapolis, for the whole city, and for the whole state, as folks out here continue working through what happened earlier this morning, and families continue processing that grief and that tragedy from this morning.
Certainly thinking of those families, Ian, certainly thinking of those doctors that are working hard in there. I mean, this is the second mass shooting in the last 24 hours that they've had to deal with, and I know it's not easy. So we are thinking of them as they're working this morning. Thank you, Ian. We'll get back to you here in a few minutes. Let's recap for everybody that's just joining us now. This mass shooting over at Ascension Church, this is in Minneapolis. This happened just before 8:30. Let's give you all the details here to catch you up. This happened during a mass that was marking the first week of school. Kids were sitting in there and worshiping, fellowshipping. A gunman approaches the side of the building. This is according to Police Chief Brian O'Hara, and barricades several of the doors, stays outside of the building, and starts shooting through the windows of that church as the kids sat inside the pews in the church. We are told that an 8 and a 10-year-old were killed where they sat in those pews. 17 total people injured, including 14 children, 2 of them right now in critical condition. We're told the shooter went to the back of the church and took their own life. We're told that suspect, we don't have a lot of information on that suspect right now, but we're told that they're in their early 20s, no extensive criminal history. Police also say a vehicle was left behind. Right now they're doing their investigations on that, checking to make sure that there's no issues in terms of bombs or explosive devices. So that investigation is underway. Chief O'Hara said other searches are coming in terms of maybe searching an apartment or searching wherever that person lived. No devices found. There was a report earlier that maybe some explosive devices were on scene. No devices found. The police chief did say a smoke bomb or a firework of some sort was found, but other than that, no explosives found. We did also hear from HCMC. They received their page at 8:46, as you just heard Ian talking about here. 11 patients there at HCMC. No fatalities in terms of the victims there at HCMC. 7 of them critical, though. 9 pediatric patients in total. 7 of them critical. Those are all children, and 4 of them requiring the operating room. That is what we were told by HCMC. A lot going on here. So we want to welcome you in. Thank you for joining us here for the KARE 11 News at noon. I'm Jason Hackett. We've been recapping this breaking news here in terms of what's going on with this mass shooting. So we have reporters all over the area right now. We have some at HCMC. We have some on the scene outside of that church gathering information and trying to figure out the latest here. You see that live picture from that scene. We've actually moved our crews back a couple of blocks in order to allow police to do their work. They've expanded that perimeter a little bit. Again, this was a mass, a welcome back mass at Ascension Catholic Church. Kids coming back. This was the first week of school. They were just getting this school year started, getting to see their friends again after a long summer, trying to kick off the school year on a good note with fellowship and just everybody engaging with each other. This gunman comes up on the outside of the school, starts shooting inside of the windows, killing 2 kids, including an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. Number of people in the hospital right now. We heard an update from HCMC not too long ago talking about what they're dealing with. 11 patients there at HCMC, another 6 at Children's. Just an absolute horrible way to start the week here and to start the school year. You know, mass shootings are not uncommon, unfortunately, here in this country. You never expect it to come to your backyard until it actually does. And when it does, it's absolutely devastating and heart-wrenching. And the mayor said it earlier, families are forever changed and the entire community is changed with them. Let's bring in our CC Gaines now. Lauren, she's been here all morning, and thank goodness for her. She's been helping us with the coverage. Let's bring in CC now. There's almost no words for what's going on right now in our community.
And watching the press conference about an hour ago, I mean, Mayor Jacob Frey, he literally said there's no words. This is horrible. I mean, this is something not to be expected when we're going back to school. And the details that were released by Chief Brian O'Hara, yeah, he mentioned the details, and they were just worse than what we initially thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot happening here this afternoon, and the investigation still in its early stages, still ongoing. We know that we've mentioned the shooter is dead. That has been confirmed by police. Children are relocating to their families. I know we have reporters covering that, but that is the goal right now, to get children back to their families, safe with their families. 2 children dead, 17 injured. We do know that the shooter recovered, they recovered a rifle from the shooter, a shotgun, a pistol. Authorities saying a deliberate act of violence. Believed to have fired all 3, too.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking about the reunification, and we saw images there of children walking with their parents, walking with police officers as well. I mean, you can imagine they're clutching those little hands so tight right now. And you can see the look on the kids' faces. I mean, once you see something like that, once you see such unimaginable carnage unfold in front of you, these kids are sitting in pews in church. And then all of a sudden, bullets start flying through the windows. I can't imagine what this is going to do to their psyches, what this is going to do.
Physical and emotional.
Yeah, these are scars
trauma
that
right now.
Aren't going to ever go away. And the mayor said it best, we all have to gather together and wrap our arms around these families and around these kids, because it's going to be a long healing and recovery process for sure.
Absolutely. I know too, we have some video of families reuniting that we can see here. Look at that.
Yeah.
Tears. Thankful. Scared.
All you can do is just hold on to your kids. You expect as a parent, and neither one of us are parents, but you know, as a parent, you send your kids off to school, you expect them to come back home. You never expect something like this to happen. You know it can because of our current reality here in this country, but you never ever expect it to make its way to your backyard until it does. And you know these parents are going to be holding their kids extra tight this evening. And you think about tomorrow, there's gonna be kids all over the metro, all across town that are gonna have that question in the back of their mind. Is this gonna be the last time I send my kid off to school?
Yep.
And that is not a thing that a parent should ever have to think of.
No, a sad and a tough start to the first week here. We do want to welcome you into the KARE 11 News at noon. Cece Gaines alongside Jason Hackett here. We're continuing to follow breaking news out of South Minneapolis. Police are on scene. We have the scene footage up right now of a mass shooting at a Catholic church and school. 2 children are dead, 17 others are hurt this afternoon. Annunciation Church, West 54th Street on the city's far south side, just west of 35W. We do know that, so you can kind of get an idea of where this is, near the Tanglewood neighborhood. In the last hour, Minneapolis police and city leaders gave us an update about what happened. So we're going to break everything down for you right now.
So our crews have been on scene across the city for hours learning more here. Our team coverage reaches from the church to the area where families are reuniting. Let's first start with our Gordon Severson, who just heard from police. Gordon.
I just need USB-C. Oh, no, sorry, my bad. Lou, they're calling for you.
Okay. You guys got me?
Actually, let's start with our Lou Ragoose here. We know, obviously things are very fluid out there in the field. Our reporters are running around trying to get information. Lou Ragoose is out there live. And Lou, we heard from police. We heard an update from them on everything that happened out there. We're going to try to get back to Lou.
We'll get back to him for sure. So
Yeah.
until then, I know that Lou's covering the police work, but our Jessica Hart has more on the Annunciation Church shooting. More details about that. The press conference just happened about an hour ago. If we could go to Jessica to see an update from the scene.
Yeah, Cece and Jason, we now know that 2 children are dead, 17 people were hurt, 14 of those individuals are children. So we're right here, right across from the school here, and the scene has quieted down quite a bit. We have Minneapolis police is still here, Park police is still here. The American Red Cross arrived about 20 minutes or so ago, but many of the EMS vehicles that we saw earlier in this area have cleared out. There was about 7 ambulances when we arrived this morning at Garfield and 54th Street here at Annunciation Church and School. We are still seeing police officers kind of walking around the area. We still have some of them guarding the front entrance of this school. They're really only allowing a few people in, officers, and it looks like school personnel as well. Now we have seen ATF, FBI, bomb squad. We've seen so many different people here from so many different law enforcement agencies just kind of walking around the scene. I saw some FBI agents. It looked like they were leaving, but they told me no, they are not going anywhere for quite some time. Now, police are preparing to be here for several hours here. They have actually had their community servants officers out and about. So those are uniformed officers, but they're not armed, and they've been kind of expanding the perimeter here, setting up an area for officers to get some food and water. And I overheard them say they might be here till 10 or 11 possibly at night as people continue to investigate the scene here. Now, we were able to catch up with some neighbors earlier this morning about what they heard. Take a listen to what one man heard this morning.
So we live about 2 blocks from here. I was on a call. All the windows of our home were open. I know what gunfire sounds like, and I could tell. I was shocked. I said, "There's no way that could be gunfire." There was so much of it.
I actually spoke with a grandmother who was outside playing with her grandson, and they were just on the swing when she heard 3 rounds of shots, and she immediately took him and went inside their daughter's house. And then just minutes later, she said she heard several sirens coming down the street, and she actually sent her kids to school here. So for a lot of people in this neighborhood, this is very personal and close. Even if they don't know anyone inside the school, there's a lot of people in this area who have connections to people who do. So as soon as we learn new information about what is happening here, we'll make sure to get back to you. Back to you.
All right, Jessica, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning when this happened, the last thing you expect to hear is gunshots ringing out through your neighborhood. I can't even imagine the panic that went through some of those folks.
Yeah, locking down everything. And like Jessica's saying, police, FBI, not going anywhere. They're going to be there for hours more trying to investigate more, clear the situation up.
Let's get to our Lou Raguse. He's been on the scene, speaking to law enforcement sources, gathering information. And Lou, as bad as we thought that it was this morning, it got even worse as the details started to come in from police.
Actually, guys, what I'm going to talk about here is I just finished an interview with a little boy who was inside the school. Extremely emotional to hear the words from the boy himself, especially as a parent myself. But we're sending that back to the station now, so you can play it in full. I'm going to kind of paraphrase right now what he told me. His name is Wes. He's 10 years old, and he's a 5th grader. And he said that the shots rang out beside him through the stained glass window. He was sitting very close to the window. And he said that his friend jumped on top of him to protect him, and that he saved him, and that his friend is one of the kids who's injured in the hospital right now. And he talked to us with his grandpa. His grandpa told us that no matter what you think, obviously nobody likes a mass shooting like this. No matter what you think about it, though, and no matter what the debate is, the grandpa told us that when it happens to people you love, it changes everything. And he told us the obvious, which is there is nothing that 10-year-old boy ever could have done to deserve what he just went through, let alone the kids that were wounded and injured. Little Wes told us that he's praying for his friend. I believe he said the friend's name is Isaac. He's praying for him in the hospital, and he said he's praying for all of the others who are in the hospital as well. It wasn't clear, and we didn't ask if he knew the extent that there were children that died as well. And he also added that this is something that they train for. Unfortunately, we all know that elementary age kids need to train for active shooter drills. And he said that they had not trained for one in the church before, but he said that the people in charge helped him feel safe. They went, after hiding underneath the pews, they all made it to the gym. And when he was able to leave the gym, his mom was there waiting for him, and obviously happy to see him. So this is an interview that we just finished within the last 10 minutes here, and our photographer, editor, David Peterlins, is working on sending that back to the station. It'll be worth watching in its entirety when you get it back.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Lou, wow. To have the sense of mind to sacrifice himself and oh my God, I
and
can't.
imagine the stories too that families are hearing when they reunite with their children who were in the school and the church. I mean, this morning we saw parents and guardians waiting for their children to be released by authorities. There you see them. New video into our newsroom of authorities hugging scared parents waiting for their children to be released by officers. We caught this just outside the church. Parents and students were then moved to a reunification zone. That's the right now. Parents were directed to meet with families just down the road at Annunciation School. You can see that in that video there. I know our Audrey Russo is there now. Audrey, what have you seen in this reunification process?
Well, right now I actually am set up from a slightly different vantage point. We are right behind the church. It is still blocked off, and I think it's important to note that as we hear some of these emotional sound bites and these emotional stories, it is important to note there is still very much an active investigation going on here at the church. In the last couple of moments, we heard them launch a drone, and we're actually hearing it buzzing overhead right now. What you're looking at is the area where you can see the church, but there's also a parking lot. Earlier from police, we heard that the suspect's vehicle, what they believe to be the suspect's vehicle, was parked in the parking lot and that they were searching that right now. Now, we haven't seen that vehicle come out through this particular street. We're at the intersection of Harriet and West 55th. But what we have seen just in the last half hour, multiple cruisers coming through this intersection, almost to the point where I'm wondering how many more they can fit in this small church parking lot. We've also seen folks wearing FBI vests going from door to door. The neighborhoods and the houses in this neighborhood that kind of abut the parking lot of the church, talking to them, asking questions. We've also seen some canines around this area. So whether or not that relates to the suspects or what police believe to be the suspect's vehicle in this parking lot, that's unclear at this time. But what we do know is that they are still actively trying to seek some information from neighbors who lived very, very close to the scene. I have also seen some folks leave wearing Annunciation lanyards. None of them have wanted to stop and talk and go on camera. Very understandable given what they just went through. But again, this is what we're seeing out here. Still very much an active investigation as police are trying to gather more information. Again, this is the back of the church abutting the parking lot. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that reporting, Audrey. Still a lot that we're gathering. Another crucial part of this story is the response from area hospitals. I mean, I know we heard from Hennepin Healthcare not too long ago, and one of the doctors mentioned that they're trained for things like this, but you don't expect it to happen, but they were prepared. We do have Ian Russell outside HCMC, and I know you have an update just from the last hour.
Yeah, you know, as you mentioned, they train for this, but it's difficult to actually be a part of these situations, to actually, see this realized and sort of put that training to use. You mentioned that update. We actually just got that within the last 10 minutes. HCMC, Hennepin Healthcare, just came out, wanted to clarify some of the numbers that they reported to us during that 11 a.m. press conference. They've told us now that it's actually 10 patients they have. Earlier they said it was 11, now it's 10 patients. As for the numbers, 1 adult and 6 kids are in critical condition. 1 adult and 2 kids are currently have non-life-threatening injuries. That's the update there. 10 patients total, 1 adult, 6 kids in critical condition, 1 adult and 2 kids in non-life-threatening condition. Just difficult. I think hearing Lou talk a second ago about some of the kids and what they've seen, and even hearing from some of the doctors a second ago about how difficult this is to process. It's not an easy situation to comprehend or to be a part of. As you mentioned, we heard from some of those doctors earlier. Here's what they had to say.
I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved.
It was Dr. Thomas Wyatt you just heard from, who was providing that press conference update about around an hour ago or so. Now, he told us that first page for a mass casualty event came at 8:46 a.m. We were here at about 9:15, 9:30 or so, and when I was leaving my home this morning, I spoke with a neighbor of mine who works here at Hennepin Healthcare, and she told me, hey, I've gotten this alert, and this is something that we've heard and something that we're preparing for right now over at the hospital. HCMC officials tell us that they are going to be providing updates kind of throughout the day here as some of these patients are worked on and operated on and released, ideally in the next few hours here. So we'll keep you updated on when those updates come out, both on air and online at care11.com, guys.
All right, Ian, thank you very much, and we certainly appreciate the hard work of those doctors and those nurses and those surgeons, because it's been a busy 24 hours for them. We had the mass shooting yesterday, 6 people shot there, 1 person killed, and a lot of those patients, most of those patients, all those patients are at HCMC, and now on top of that you have 11 or 10 more patients here coming in for treatment for, as we mentioned here, with this being a rifle, these wounds from this weapon can cause so much damage and are not easy to treat. So
yeah, I mean, we have people at HCMC, Children's. The numbers just keep changing, coming in differently. So we're going to keep you updated about that. I do know that this situation happened early this morning, and we're just continuing to learn new information. I know we have our Michelle Beck outside of the area where the situation happened with new details from police. I know we've been hearing from them all throughout the morning.
Yes, hey Cece, I'm in the area where actually the police chief and the mayor was standing. They gave us those facts and figures. I'm going to explain some of those in just a second. We actually see a number of law enforcement officials coming out here as we speak. But I was just going to say that even though we know that the shooter has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, the scene as it appears behind me, it doesn't appear to have let up one bit. You can see the 2 heavily armored SWAT vehicles in the center as well as, of course, that yellow crime scene tape, and still lots of law enforcement officials from numerous agencies out here covering the entire, encircling the entire church here. I want to go over some reactions that I have observed while being here, and as the police chief was telling us those facts and figures for the first time. I mean, first, people having their hands on their chest. And not only was there media, members of the press here to observe and to listen to the police chief, there were also neighbors and people who are very a part of and integral to this community. They were here as well, hands on their chest, and really an eerie, somber moment right at 11 o'clock as the police chief was sharing details about the 2 young kids who died in this attack. The church bells started ringing exactly at 11 a.m. And also, guys, when the chief said the shooter had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol on him, I heard someone say the word Jesus aloud, even from the distance where I was standing feet away. So let's talk about some of those facts and figures as the chief said it right here where I'm standing at the corner of Grand Avenue and Diamond Lake. He said dozens of kids were inside mass at the time. He again said 2 young children, ages 8 and age 10, they were killed as they were sitting in the pews. 17 other people, let me say that again, 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children, and now 2 of those children are in critical condition according to the police chief. I also want to go over what we know about the shooter. According to the chief, we know that his age, he apparently was in his early 20s. His connection to the school is unclear. How many rounds he fired? It was in the dozens, the chief says. He fired 3 weapons he had on him. Again, that was the rifle, the shotgun, and the pistol. And guys, I asked the chief what side of the church he fired from, and he said the one closest to where we are right now. I don't know if we have any sound available ready to go from the police chief, but let's go ahead and take a listen if it's ready.
This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible.
Yeah, the words that really resonate with me, incomprehensible, cowardice, right, guys? And that's the sense that I'm getting right here in the heart of this neighborhood. Again, as I was mentioning, so many neighbors here at this corner to observe just to get a sense of what's going on. I saw some of those families that were coming out of the reunification zone, hand in hand with their parents, those kids in their green uniforms. A really tough sight to see here this morning. Back to you.
Yeah, the words there, deliberate, cowardice. I mean, it truly takes a certain level of evil for somebody to go up to a room, to a church full of people, a school full of people, and to open fire. And you heard that there from the chief. You heard those sentiments from the mayor as well. It's absolutely senseless.
It is. And up until now, we didn't know much about the shooter. I mean, Chief Brian O'Hara did say that the shooter, from what they know, worked alone, early 20s, but they're looking deeper into the gunman's criminal history. I mean, not known. But now our investigative reporter, AJ Legault, is in the newsroom with new information just in about the alleged shooter. Hey, AJ.
Hey, Cece. Yeah, multiple law enforcement sources have confirmed to KARE 11 that the shooter is a 23-year-old named Robin Westman. Robin formerly went by Robert. That's what we're being told. Grew up in Richfield, and we've also learned that his mother had some connection to the school or church and worked there. That may be the connection between the shooter and that location. That's what law enforcement sources are telling us. Again, we have confirmed that the shooter in this case is named Robin Westman, and it was a 23-year-old.
Yeah, important new information there. AJ, thank you for that update. And a lot of people were asking, you heard reporters asking during the press conference if there was any connection there.
What was the connection?
Well, now that we know that there's a connection, we'll see where the investigation progresses from here.
Absolutely. And, you know, reaction is pouring in about this. I know we've had national attention to this, President Trump, local. I know our Chris Harapsky is tracking all of that right now at the live desk.
Yeah, thank you, Jason Cece, and good reporting from AJ. There's a lot going around online on social media right now, and for him to get that confirmation from law enforcement services is good journalism. We're going to keep digging on that. We have reaction coming in from elected officials around the country right now. Let's start with President Trump, who posted on Truth Social. He said he was fully briefed on the shooting. The FBI responded. They're on the scene. He asked everyone to join him in praying for everyone involved. We're going to move on to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, also saying he was briefed early on what law enforcement knew there. The BCA, the State Patrol, they're on scene helping with the investigation right now. He says, quote, "I'm praying for our kids and teachers whose first week of school was marred by this horrific act of violence," end quote. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat out of Minnesota, posting this morning, quote, "I'm heartbroken by the horrific violence at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis this morning. My prayers are with the students, teachers, and families, and I am grateful for the first responders who are on scene." We also saw a post from the current Speaker of the Minnesota House, Lisa Demuth. And to put that into context, she's fresh off we're all fresh off the violent tragedy that killed Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman, her husband, injured State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Demuth asking for prayers for all there, including children, families, staff, first responders. Another former lawmaker I spoke with, State Senator Jeff Hayden, represented Minneapolis a few years ago. You often see him representing us on election coverage. His children went to the K-8 school at Annunciation Church in the early 2000s, and he described to me what the community is like there, and he described them as family. It's that tight-knit of a school there. Here's his reaction to the violence there this morning.
My daughter went there from the 1st to the 8th grade in the 2000s. She's 24 now, almost 24. My son went there for middle school. So we have a lot of friends and family, or what we consider family, that they have lifelong bonds. We have some friends right now that don't live too far from there that are in front of the school. And what my daughter told me was that they have mass every Wednesday, and then this is the welcome mass that they have on Wednesday. So the school or the cathedral, the church would have been full of the community as well as all of the children. All of the children would go to mass, and this would be their welcome mass, but they did it every week. So, the only thing we know is what you guys have, others have been reporting. Someone came in and started shooting. But the point of that, I guess, is that, it could have easily, in a different time been my own children or my friends' children, because all of the kids from kindergarten to 8th grade would be in that mass. This thing touches you, man, in ways, and every time it happens, that same stuff just all floods you, like the same feeling floods you. So I'm not sure what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, but I just think that the amount of gun violence that's happening in this country and the availability, sounds like this person had a rifle. I don't know if it was an AR or what. I've worked on this stuff, since I got back in the community because of gun violence. I worked on it after my sister died. I've worked on it legislatively and professionally, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down.
Yeah, former State Senator Jeff Hayden, they're talking about how his best friend was killed in gun violence in the 90s here in Minneapolis. His sister, innocent bystander in Atlanta, killed to gun violence, and sort of these feelings are coming back up now with this tragedy today. Jason Cece, let's go back to you.
All right, Chris, appreciate that perspective. Thank you very much. And you did mention the shooting of Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman, and just how the last 3 months have been just an emotional gut punch for Minnesotans, and this just adds on to it. It's just been really tough for a lot of folks.
It has been tough.
There's going to be a lot of healing that needs to be done for people out here.
Absolutely. I do think that we should go back to investigative reporter AJ Legault, because he did give us new information about the shooter, the age, a possible connection. I know you have even more information right now.
Yeah, we're continuing to dig in and learn as much as we can about this shooter, and I'm looking right now at court records that were filed in Dakota County in 2019, where the suspected shooter, formerly known as Robert Westman, had his name changed as a minor. His parents both signed off changing Robert Westman's name to Robin Westman. As we told you a few minutes ago, we know the individual is 23 years old, and their parent worked at the school or the church where this shooting happened, and that's what that's the new information we can pass on right now to you, Cece.
All right, thank you so much for that. Again, questions being answered about a connection.
Continue to peel back the layers, and I'm sure we're going to find out more and more things. I mean, we just talked to AJ a few minutes ago. He found out something new a few minutes later. This is going to continue to unfold, and it's going to hopefully help paint the picture for, there's no reason to do this, there's no justification for doing this, but we can at least try to understand this a little bit better.
The what and the why, for sure. I mean, if you're just tuning in, our breaking news coverage continues out of South Minneapolis, where the community is reeling from a shooting that did happen, a mass shooting that happened earlier this morning. It happened at Annunciation Church on West 54th Street. 2 children are dead, more than 12 are injured. That's what we're learning this afternoon. I know that we've been going back and forth with Jessica Hart. She has the latest from the scene. I know the last time we chatted, crews were expanding the perimeter out there.
Yes, Cece, crews have expanded the perimeter at least a couple of blocks here. We were able to kind of find a corner that they had sectioned off, so we were able to get a little bit closer back to the scene here. But as you can see, it's quieted down quite a bit here. I mean, there are still several police cars out front of the school, all of them with their lights on and flashing. There's also still police officers posted outside of the front here of the school. We still see officers walking around with canines as well here as they just kind of patrol the perimeter. We've also seen some community service officers out and about walking around just trying to answer questions. Now those are uniformed officers, but they're not armed, but they're just kind of helping secure the scene here. Now, CC mentioned earlier what we know so far, 2 children are dead. The Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says that those 2 kids are just only 8 and 10 years old. They were just sitting in the pews during mass when a gunman approached from the outside of the building just before 8:30 this morning and started firing through the windows. Now, police this morning told us that 17 people were hurt. 14 of them were kids, and we knew from a press conference earlier this morning that at least 2 of those kids are in critical condition. Now, the scene remains to still be very active. We've overheard some officers say they could be here until 10, maybe 11 o'clock tonight, so there's no indication that this scene is going to wrap up anytime soon. The American Red Cross also arrived on scene just to provide any services to people kind of lingering in the area. But a lot of the people who were out here this morning just kind of watching everything unfold have since left. Many of them live nearby. Some of them even heard the gunshots, and they just wanted to see what was going on, if there was anything they could do to help. There's actually one woman who was just kind of out walking her dog, and she asked the officers if it would be okay if she went and laid down some flowers. And so she went over to the Annunciation Church and School sign, and she laid down a bouquet of flowers just on her walk. She didn't say anything, she didn't want to talk, but she just wanted to show her respect here, or pay her respects rather, for the 2 kids who have lost their life. Now, we should also mention too that the gunman, police believe, the gunman is also dead. Police believe he did take his own life here. So there's no current threat to the community, and there hasn't been for quite some time. But we still see law enforcement agencies from the ATF, FBI, Homeland are still out here alongside local police departments, just kind of patrolling the scene here. So again, 2 kids are dead here at the Annunciation Church and Catholic School. Several more kids are injured here. The scene has quieted down quite a bit since this morning here at 54th and Garfield Avenue. As soon as we learn new information, we'll make sure to bring it to you. Back to you.
Beautiful to see those flowers laid there. I'm sure we're going to see more of an outpouring of support from around the community. We're already hearing word of vigils that are taking place, and I think we're going to need those around here to help folks with the healing, because this is just such an unexpected tragedy for so many folks.
It is, and I know Jessica mentioned the press conference that happened almost a couple of hours ago. I mean, we have clips that we're about to show you from that, from the mayor, from the police chief, but you could just sense the emotion from both of them when you were watching the press conference.
Oh, for sure.
The anger, the sadness.
Watching Mayor Fry, I've seen many press conferences from the 3 years I've been here from him, and I don't think I've ever seen him that angry, that upset. You can see he was he was visibly shaken, as we all are this afternoon.
Yeah, so let's take a listen to what they had to say.
This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack.
You heard there from Police Chief Brian O'Hara. I also heard, we mentioned from Mayor Fry, and I thought this was so striking. Mayor Fry was talking about how he doesn't want to talk about thoughts and prayers, because thoughts and prayers are something that always comes up in the aftermath of this, and people, you know, they have their own sides and, you know, which side they stand on when it comes to thoughts and prayers. But he says the kids were in the church literally praying when all of this happened, and just kind of puts in perspective just the innocence that's been shattered here today.
It doesn't get worse than that, of course. I know, too, a lot of focus has been on the hospital response. I know our Ian Russell is at HCMC with an update about numbers of people that they're treating right now.
Yeah, Cece, Jason, they actually just updated us within the past half hour or so. They came out a little before noon just to give us an update from the numbers they told us during their 11 a.m. press conference. Those new numbers, because initially they said it was 11 victims they were treating here at HCMC. Now they say it's 10 total victims. That includes 1 adult and 6 children that are in critical condition, and 1 adult and 2 children who are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Again, that's 10 people total here, 1 adult and 6 children in critical condition, 1 adult and 2 children being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Since we've been here, since about 9:15, 9:30 this morning, there was a heavy law enforcement presence where they had this road blocked off as ambulances and more law enforcement was responding down this way. Since then, that has since opened up. We've heard from quite a number of folks just out and about who have heard about this shooting through the news and various other outlets, and just telling me it's a tragedy. It's awful. It's horrific to think about something like this happening, and thinking about kids being injured in situations like this. We heard from some of these doctors who were helping to treat some of these kids earlier this morning. Here's Dr. Tom Wyatt.
I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved.
You talk about that quick response from both law enforcement and the hospital staff were able to respond to this incident. Dr. Wyatt there told us that the initial page for a mass casualty event came in about 8:46 this morning, and they were able to respond within minutes to be able to quickly adapt and be ready for these ambulances with patients that were coming inside. They told us as well that they have a reunification center set up across the street from the main building that's back behind me here, and they say that most of the patients and their families have been able to be reconnected with each other. So some good news there that they were able to connect once again. Back to you.
Yes, of course, these health professionals are so well trained for situations like this, but it's not something that you want to execute. But again, they did well with that execution. I do know, Jason, you mentioned vigils. I know our very own Carla Holt, she messaged us about a vigil that's happening tonight. It's from the Lutheran Church of Christ the Redeemer. They posted saying the shooting this morning at the Annunciation community it gathered for the first Mass of the school year. It left us heartbroken, horrified, like most of us. Please join us tonight at 7 p.m. in our sanctuary to be in community as we pray for our siblings in Christ.
And gathering spaces like that are so necessary after tragedies like this. Places where people can cry together, hug each other, love on each other. The unity within the community is going to be so important moving forward here. So we'll inform you of all the vigils going on so you can get those emotions out, because a lot of us are feeling a lot of things right now, no doubt about that. So parents were directed to meet with families just down the road at Annunciation School. You can we have video of that. We've seen pictures all morning of kids walking hand in hand with parents, with police officers walking hand in hand with some of the students out there. Our Audrey Russo's out there live right now. And Audrey, we've seen all morning just the looks on some of these kids' faces as they're walking down the street after they're meeting back up with their parents. It's just awful to see.
Yeah, a lot of anguish, a lot of fear, a lot of emotion. Right now, I want to tell you a little bit about where I am and what I'm seeing, because again, as we are hearing these stories, we do need to remember this is still an active investigation going on here at the church. We can see officers trying to piece together exactly how this all went down. I'll have photojournalist Jennifer Teray zoom in on this vehicle that you can see right there on your screen. These are folks wearing vests that say Homeland Security and Bomb Squad. We've seen a drone go back up in the air. It's gone up and down a couple of times just within the last 30 minutes when I last spoke to you. We're at the back of the church area, a neighborhood that abuts the parking lot. We heard from police earlier today that the vehicle that's believed to belong to the suspect is in the parking lot of the church, and they are having to search it right now. It's unclear, we're far back, so it's a little bit unclear which vehicle it is because we are just simply too far away to see it. But that's what we're seeing right here. They've actually had a couple more officers come and watch the perimeter here just to make sure that everybody's staying safe. We've also seen folks with FBI vests going from door to door in this neighborhood talking to the neighbors who live here. Now, as all of this is going down, of course, everybody is hearing the news that's coming out of Minneapolis and wanting to know how they can help. I actually did speak with a chaplain who said he heard the news, rushed to the scene, rushed to the reunification center to try to offer whatever support he could. Listen to this emotional sound. This is what he had to say and what he witnessed.
And then down in the basement, they're reuniting the children with the parents. And there's so many tears and so much fear. No one should have to go through this. And this has got to stop.
And again, back out here live, this is still very much an active situation. We are seeing cops go from car to car on either side of the street. We're seeing officers, local and federal, just swarming around the area trying to piece together exactly what happened here. Again, this is the back of the Annunciation Church, abutting the parking lot. Earlier today in the press conference, we did hear that the suspect's vehicle was possibly left there. So we're going to stay here. We're going to continue to report what we're seeing. We have not seen any vehicle be towed away yet, but we have seen a lot of cruisers and a lot of cars go in behind this crime scene tape behind me to help assist in the investigation. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Audrey. I know that when we were speaking with Jessica, she mentioned that crews are going to be out there probably until late into tonight, but I'm glad we're at the point in this where families can reunite. I think that's super important to point out here.
Let's get back to our Lou Ragoose, who is on the scene this morning. And I mean, we're going to hear so many stories coming out of this. That story that you told Lou a few minutes ago was just absolutely gut-wrenching.
Yeah, and I'll reshare that for anybody who's just joining us. Just give you some of the background reporting that's going on right now. You know, we're starting to receive some names, but we're really confirming, making sure that we have the right confirmation before we start reporting some of these names of both the deceased and those who are wounded in the shooting today. Some additional information about this shooter. AJ and I each independently confirmed the identity through sources. And I just confirmed where this shooter was living, which was on Lyndale Avenue, but it was 3 or 4 miles south of here in Richfield, actually. And so there'll be a lot more information on that coming out within the next few hours. Now back to that heartbreaking interview from a brave little boy who came up to us with his grandpa and his parents to tell us about what it was like to be inside the building during that shooting. And we've sent back the video, and our editors there are getting it prepared to show on TV. So as soon as you have that, please interrupt me and let me know. But for now, I'll just kind of paraphrase some of what he said. His name was Weston, and he said that he was sitting very close to the stained glass window in the pew at their mass that they were all in the church for this morning, when all of a sudden a shot went off. He wasn't sure what it was. He thought even that he felt gunshot powder on his neck. He felt a hot sensation on his neck. But then his friend jumped over him to protect him as they went to hide underneath the pews. His friend was wounded and is currently at the hospital. And then he said that they hid under the pew as the shots were going off. Eventually they were able to run to the gymnasium, where the teachers and administrators and everyone helped them feel safe until they were able to be released, and his mom was waiting for him outside for him. when he was able to leave. And so he said that he and his family are praying for his friend, along with all the other victims that are in the hospital right now. And his grandfather shared a couple remarks about how having one of these incidents happen to somebody that you know changes your outlook on everything. And those were his words to us, which we also have on camera, so we'll turn those around and share those with you throughout the day as well.
All right, we'll try to get that sound to everybody as soon as possible, but no 9 or 10-year-old should ever have to go through that. That is just absolutely gut-wrenching. Lou, thank you very much.
Yeah, we've heard so many heartbreaking stories. We've gotten continuous updates about from health leaders about that situation. We've heard from Audrey multiple times about the reunification process. Michelle Beck has been standing by too. If folks, well, we don't have Michelle right now, but just in case you are joining, we have received new information really all throughout the afternoon about this situation. If you're just tuning in, mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church. We know that 2 people are dead. 17 others are injured. The 2 dead children.
Yeah, 8-year-old and 10-year-old that won't be going home to their parents tonight.
Now, the gunman, I know we were speaking with investigative reporter AJ Legault, 23-year-old, has a connection to the school. His mother, I believe, he mentioned.
Yeah, his mother. And lived not too far away from the scene. So obviously a lot more is going to come out once we start talking to neighbors, once investigators start talking to neighbors and people that knew him, going to paint a better picture of who this person was.
Yeah, we do too. I do have questions. I mean, we're going to keep learning about the shooter, but I do know that police mentioned rifle, shotgun, pistol. Had all 3 of those while this act was being committed. Still trying to learn if he was lawfully carrying. That is a big question. Let's get it back out to Michelle. I think we do have her up. Do you have any new details from the scene? I know you've been chatting with investigators and different folks like that.
I mean, just in the last 2 minutes, Cece, I was talking with one of the chaplains, one of the 3 chaplains from the city of Hopkins. He was here just as he was leaving the scene. I stopped him and I asked him, sir, what happened in there? What did you do in there? And he said he just sat with the families and just listened. I asked him, I had the chance to ask him just one more question about hope. How do you give people hope? What is a word of hope that you can give them in these troubling times? And he just said, if you know Christ, that is, you have the way forward, essentially is what he was telling me before he had to run off. I want to get to some video right now of the scene earlier in the day, just because where we are right now, this is the media staging area where the police chief was able to give us the nuts and bolts of what happened. Most importantly, dozens of kids were inside morning mass at the time of this shooting. 2 young children, they were ages 8 and 10. They were killed when they sat in the pews. 17 other people were hurt, 14 of them being children, and 2 of those children, the police chief says, are in critical condition. So how did all this unfold? Well, the chief says during the morning mass, the gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the church closest to where we are right now. That's at Grand and Diamond Lake. And he began firing a rifle through the church windows, towards the children sitting in the pews. Through the windows, the shooter was apparently armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. He used all 3. Why don't you get closer, Adam? Come with me. As we just get closer to the scene, we saw law enforcement officials. We see them right now coming past this yellow crime scene. In the last 30 minutes or so, we've seen a lot of movement in and out of this crime scene, definitely way more than what we have seen before. You know, it's too early to say that anything has lifted. However, things are constantly changing. Generally, we do notice very, very early on in the investigation, we are waiting for extra word from the police chief or anybody else, any authority later today. But for now, these are the latest of what we have. But do take a listen to earlier in the day, about an hour ago, I believe this sound is ready for us, the chief talking about what happened to the shooter.
A lot of new details coming in from Michelle. Thank you so much for that. So I know too, we're getting new updates from AJ, correct? Or AJ or Lou?
We're going to Lou next.
Oh, Lou, okay.
And Lou, do you have that Oh, yeah, we're going to get to Lou here in a second. We do
Okay.
have some updates.
While we
here
wait,
from
we do have an
Children's.
update. That's what we were reading. So Children's Minnesota did give us an update not too long ago, just a couple minutes ago. So today, 7 children. That's an update from what we had. We initially had 6.
Yes.
So 7 children between ages of 9 and 6 were admitted to hospital for care because of the incident. 1 patient, they're telling us, has been discharged. So
Good news there.
that is good news there. They say our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and loved ones in our communities who are impacted by yet another senseless act of violence, which we have mentioned. It's been a crazy 24 hours, not only for children, but also HCMC.
Yeah, HCMC, we had 3 shootings in the span of about 16 hours. We had a mass shooting yesterday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, another shooting at 10 o'clock at night. Both of those shootings deadly, and then another shooting just this morning at around 2 o'clock. So 3 deadly shootings in the span of 16 hours or so, and then you have this on top of it. It's a lot for the community to deal with, and a lot for medical professionals to deal with as well.
Absolutely. I do know that we have Lou. We have Lou back with an update. I know we just came to you, but what can you tell us?
Yeah, if you guys have that interview clip ready to play, just to set it up, this boy named Weston approached us with his grandfather, and his parents were a little bit behind him here, and wanted to share what happened inside the church as the shooting happened. So if you have that ready to go, just go ahead and play it through.
Yeah.
And, did you get reunited with your parents? And
Yeah, my mom was waiting outside of the church when it happened.
Yeah.
And then
What was it like seeing her?
I was super happy because, like, I was scared that I wasn't going to see her because I didn't know what was happening, really. I was just in shock.
And was it behind you where it was happening, or in front of you, just kind of?
It was, like, right beside me. I was, like, 2 seats away from the stained glass windows. So they were, like, the shots were, like, right next to me.
That's scary.
Yeah.
You went under the pew after that happened?
Yeah. And
Is
then
that what everyone tried to do?
I think I got, like, gunpowder on my neck. Yeah.
When you heard the shots, what went through your head?
I was like, the first one, I was like, what is that? I thought it was just something. Then when I heard it again, I just ran under the pew. And then I covered my head.
So that's a segment from the interview there with Weston. We also interviewed his grandfather and can play more segments from that as the day goes on here. Just one other thing to report is Congresswoman Ilhan Omar just arrived and is taking in the scene here, talking with constituents, and we expect to hear from her in just a little bit. We'll send it back to you guys for now.
All right, Lou, I mean, just hearing that sound, you know, children are innocent. Like, they're young, they don't know much about life, but for them to experience something like that at such a young age, it changes you, it traumatizes you. And
Absolutely.
I'm so happy he's alive and he's well. But I mean, that's something that is going to be tough to get past.
And hearing too for the first time from one of the children inside.
The gunpowder on the neck, it's
too sad.
So much.
I do know too, I believe we have Jessica Hart next. I know that the law enforcement, healthcare leaders, they're going to have a long day. We've mentioned that multiple times. Has there been any progress out at the scene from what we last talked to you about? I know you were saying they're expanding the perimeter. The FBI is there too. What do you know about that?
Yeah, Cece, they're still investigating this scene here. They have kind of expanded and changed the perimeter a few different times just to kind of give their crews an area and space where they can come to get some water and food. They can put the American Red Cross vehicle. So right now we're actually kind of standing in the Kowalski's parking garage, just kind of looking on at the scene here. Not much has really changed. They still have people kind of guarding the front entrance of the school. We did see some people earlier with lanyards standing outside the front who looked like they worked at the school, just kind of standing talking with each other for about 5 minutes or so, and then they left. But we just heard that sound from that kid, and all morning I've been seeing parents reunite with their children and just seeing their faces, just the blank stares, the fear in their eyes. They all look so incredibly scared, and then you look at their parents and they're equally as emotional and scared, but also there's a sense of relief that their child was okay and they were able to come here and safely get them home. Now, as these people were kind of leaving the scene, they kind of all walked in the same entrance escorted by police, and police escorted them out. But then once they got beyond the crime scene tape, they all kind of just dispersed and went to wherever their vehicles were. Several of the parents, I actually don't think I saw any parent not holding their child, at least their hand or their shoulders, on the way out. And that goes from kids who look like to be toddlers to teenagers, just wanting their kids to be close and near to them. Now, there was a lot of people in this area earlier this morning. It's since thinned out a lot. There's still a few people who come by and just take a look into this scene to see what is happening. And it looks like we have a group of law enforcement officers, FBI, it looks like, walking around back. Now, I've been told by people who live nearby and have had kids who go to the school that back over there is kind of where the gym was, and that seems to be where they were holding the kids until their parents were able to come and pick them up. But just sporadic movement here. Nothing too big has happened here within the past 30 minutes or so. Police officers are still here. Some officers are coming as some officers are also going here. So it's just been really quiet now. There was one woman who was out walking her dog who did lay down some flowers over by the school sign. Now, officers did let her kind of cross that tape to do that. She didn't really say anything, but she just wanted her respects to be known. Back to you.
All right, still a pretty active scene, a lot going on there. We'll let you get back to work, Jessica. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's recap for everybody that's just joining us now. It's been a busy morning here. We have had a mass shooting here in Minneapolis at Annunciation Church. That's on West 54th Street on the city's far south side. That's just west of 35W here near the Tangletown neighborhood. So we've gotten an update from police here in the last hour. Here is what we know. Just before 8:30, this happened during Mass at the church. It was a Mass marking the first week of school there. A gunman approached the side of the building, barricaded a couple of doors, and started firing shots through the stained glass windows there. You know, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old sitting in the pews were killed, 17 total people injured, 14 children. The shooter then proceeded to take his life in the back of the church. No extensive criminal history as far as we know when it comes to the shooter. Most of the shooting, we were told, happened outside of the building, dozens of rounds fired, and we're continuing to learn more about the shooter. We did learn from our AJ Legault just a few minutes ago that he lived here in the area.
Yep.
And his mom had connections to the church as well.
Possible connection there. And we do know, too, that in a few minutes we're getting word that there could possibly be another press conference, so we could learn even more information in the next few minutes for sure. So definitely stick with us as we cover this. And, you know, this situation has been getting national attention, local attention. I know we have some reaction from national. We can do that for actually local first with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is saying he was briefed early about this with the BCA State Patrol on scene helping. He said, quote, "I'm praying for our kids and teachers whose first week of school was marred by this horrific act of violence." And honestly, too, Senator Amy Klobuchar is sharing those same sentiments, posting this morning, quote, "I'm heartbroken by the horrific violence at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis this morning. My prayers are with the students, teachers, and families, and I'm grateful for the first responders who are all on scene." And I think, too, this next post from Speaker of the House, Minnesota House, Lisa Dameth, fresh off the violent tragedy that killed Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband and injured State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Dameth asking for prayers for all that were there, including the children, family, staff, first responders. But I mean, that's a good point. So much has happened over these past few months. And then to add this, another thing, it's a lot for healthcare workers, law enforcement. Yeah,
gun violence has definitely hit home here in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities, and it's going to take a lot of healing to get past this. A lot of families are broken this morning. Let's get to our Ian Russell. He is following the medical response to this. We have, I think, 2 different hospitals here, Children's and HCMC, treating patients. Ian, what do you know?
Yeah, well, guys, we've heard a little bit of some updated numbers here in just the past a couple hours or so. Originally, we heard from HCMC earlier that it was 11 patients they were treating. Now we're being told that it is 10 total. That includes 1 adult and 6 kids that are in critical condition, and 1 adult and 2 kids with non-life-threatening injuries. That update came out at about 12:15 or so. And just within the last 10 minutes, we heard from Children's Minnesota. I want to read their full statement that they sent out earlier, just not too long ago here. They said, today, 7 children between the ages of 9 and 16 were admitted to our hospital for care as a result of the tragic incident this morning. 1 patient has been discharged. Our thoughts are with all the victims, their families and loved ones in our communities who are impacted by yet another senseless act of violence. As I mentioned, HCMC has been very busy this morning as they've been treating some of those patients as they were coming in here. Things have since gone a little bit back to normal. Officials from the hospital tell us that there's a reunification center set up across the street for some of those families to meet up with their loved ones here as treatment is still being done. We did hear from doctors this morning who talked about some of their process and getting ready for this incident when the initial calls came in. Here's what they had to say.
I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medical medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved.
Again, for an update from Children's Minnesota, that's now 7 kids they're treating between the ages of 9 and 16. HCMC says 1 adult and 6 kids in critical condition, 1 adult and 2 kids with non-life-threatening injuries. They've told us that updates will kind of come throughout the day here as these kids and these adults are being treated for their injuries. We'll keep you updated as those updates come out, guys. Back to you.
All right, Ian Russell with the very latest here. Thank you very much. And as we've been mentioning all morning, HCMC is already busy at work because they've had several shootings here over the last 24 hours, including a mass shooting yesterday in broad daylight at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 6 people shot there. And so they've been treating those patients, and now you have 10 more patients coming in to be treated today for what are sure to be horrible wounds because a rifle was used, and those rifles really, really rip through and cause a lot of damage, as we heard from doctors earlier. So it's going to be a long day here for those doctors, for those nurses, for those surgeons, and we're certainly thinking of them as they work to mend these folks back up.
Long day, high stress. I know during one of Jessica Hart's live shots, she mentioned vigils, people coming to give flowers, people just feeling horrible about the situation. Our caller Halt messaged us about a vigil that's happening in just a few hours at Lutheran Church of Christ the Redeemer. They posted on social media saying this shooting this morning as the Annunciation community gathered for the first Mass of the school year has left us heartbroken and horrified. They're having a vigil at 7 o'clock tonight in their sanctuary so that the community can come together tonight.
We have this statement just in from Children's Minnesota as well. Today, 7 children between ages 9 and 16 were admitted to our hospital for care as a result of the tragic incident this morning. 1 patient has been discharged. Our thoughts are with all the victims, their families, and loved ones in our communities who are impacted by yet another senseless act of violence. And they said that term, yet another senseless act. It's been a pretty violent year.
It has.
Overall here in Minnesota.
It has been a very chaotic year. And 2, I mean, everything that we've mentioned as far as the response from the president or the response from lawmakers, I mean, everyone coming together, we have to put note into that folks are coming together to bring flowers, to provide help. I'm sure if there's any help in any way, it'll be posted on social media, and we'll definitely bring you that too.
One thing you see in the aftermath of these mass shootings, blood banks. They need blood for these surgeries, for transfusions and whatnot. So if you can give, if you can donate blood, make sure you do that because that will help a lot of folks that are needing it right now, that are hurting right now.
Absolutely. All right, if you're just now joining us too, we just want to give you one last recap here. Mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church. It happened early this morning. We have more, we learned a lot about the gunman from AJ, but we do want to get to Morgan because I know she's getting reaction, neighborhood reaction. If we can go out to her and see what she's seeing out there right now.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, actually, that State Representative Ilhan Omar is actually walking up right now. We heard from her people earlier that she was going to be speaking with some of the victims and their families, and it seems as though she's ready to talk to the media. And so why don't we head over that direction and find out what the representative has to say, as she has been talking with also Mayor Fry, too. I saw her having a conversation with him. Devin, let's head that way. Stay with us, guys. We're going to go over there real quick.
Have them be gunned down is just unspeakable horror. So my heart breaks for the families and the victims of this tragic morning here in Minneapolis at Annunciation Catholic Church. We don't know much. We know that the assailant is dead, and we are going to learn more about motives and what more can be done to make sure that we avoid tragedies like this. But at this moment, I just want to hold the space for prayer for the families and the victims of this tragic event.
Have you had a chance to speak with school leadership yet?
I have not. We know that that's what I attempted to do. They are in the middle of getting a statement out, trying to make sure that they're able to communicate the tragedy that has taken place, what that means for their close-knit, deeply faithful community. But I did have an opportunity to chat with the mayor and the commissioner of public safety. And they are continuing to see an outpouring of support from law enforcement across the state, and they are also seeing federal agents like the FBI come to assist. And we know that we are going to get to the bottom of what has taken place as the investigation unfolds. It's been incredible to hear from leaders of Congress. Even the White House reached out to see what our community needs. And that's the kind of moment that we are in. It's a moment of grief. It's a moment of solidarity. It's a moment of prayer. But we know that once this investigation is done, once these families are made whole, then we can have the national conversation that is necessary to stop school shootings like this from taking place in our communities and devastating families all over this country. Thank you.
Representative, can you tell us what the White House said to you when they reached out? Excuse me. All right. Okay, as you heard it there, we just heard from Representative Ilhan Omar, who says that they have just had an outpouring amount of people from across the country reaching out to them. Omar said that the White House has reached out and offered resources. We know that the FBI is now involved in this investigation, along with the BCA. And as we are out here at the scene, you can't help but notice all of the community members that are coming forward and asking what they can do to help, reflecting on their memories at this church, or maybe their kids that went to the school. I spoke with someone that lives just down the street, and it's hitting their neighborhood really hard. Here's what Megan had to say.
Not even just your kid, for the sake of the kids that you know, that you've seen grow up in this neighborhood. I saw a lot of the families come by and hug my neighbors because they've been here forever, and I know so many people, and it hurts them just as much. It hurts a whole community to watch this happen. I'm sorry that it's happened here, for everyone else who were directly affected by it.
The families walking
Yeah.
out.
And now they're faced with, how do you go back? How do you put it back together? It's the start of school. Anyone who has a vote in gun control should watch families and kids come out of a school after this. I mean, just to watch that happen and then still not do anything about it. This can't continue. I want to send my kids to school next week without the fear of this happening. And I don't have that.
And that sentiment that she just ended with there is that what I think a lot of parents are facing right now, that fear of them now sending their kids to school after this tragedy here. And so a lot of people are praying, they are sitting here trying to figure out what to do next, how to move forward as a community, because this church is such a cornerstone of this South Minneapolis community here. Everyone has made that very known. They have a lot of good memories. They have a lot of community gatherings there. And so the fact that this shooting happened here and that there were children that were killed inside that mass is devastating, everybody. Back to you.
Yeah, Morgan, thank you so much for that report, and thank you for that live press conference as we continue to learn more here. Jason and Cece stepped out. Rena and I, Chris, we're filling in now on what can only be described as another nightmare that is hitting the state of Minnesota. This one, another unspeakable tragedy with 2 children confirmed dead, 17 injured, and right now, what we are trying to do is gather information on witnesses, people who were there, the stories of those who were there and had to experience this. Lou Ragoose brought that unbelievable interview of the young man named Wes, who told the story of sitting in a church praying on his second day of school, and his friend Isaac jumping on him to protect him, who does that at that age, getting shot in the process. We are also continuing to work. Our I-team is steadfastly working. I was just visiting with them in the back of the building on this alleged shooter. There is a lot going on social media right now and on the internet, and we are doing our journalism by the book to confirm social media accounts, posts, alleged videos. So that is what we are working on right now, and we'll bring those details to you as soon as we get them.
If you are just joining us, top of the hour here, let's just bring you up to date on the tragic events of today. A mass shooting at Annunciation Church in Minneapolis. 2 children were killed, ages 8 and 10 years old, 17 others injured, 14 of those children as well, 2 of those in critical. We do know that at HCMC they had 11 patients there, 9 of whom were kids. 4 of those people needed surgery, needed operations, and there are no casualties there. Children's has 7 kids between the ages of 9 and 16 years old, and we have not been given updates on those children, other than that we know one of those kids was actually released. So the tiny bit of good news coming from Children's Hospital today as we work to get more information for you. As Chris said, this was the second day of school. The second day of school, and the kids were in a all-school mass. If any of you have gone to Catholic school, you know the whole school gets together and does a mass, usually on a Wednesday. Everyone was gathered in the building at the time, and that is when the shooting happened. This young man, as we were learning more about him, from the outside of the building, started shooting into the church through the windows. We have confirmed from police that some of the doors were barricaded from the outside, meaning people wouldn't be able to exit just on one side of the church. And this person was able to shoot many people in the process of that, and then ultimately took his own life at the end.
And there are some details that make it all the worse, which is that he used a rifle, probably a semi-automatic rifle. We don't know exactly what gun it was, but he used it. And then he used a shotgun, and then he used a pistol. So he used all the weapons that he brought. There was a smoke bomb of some sort of firework that police said he brought as well. I don't know if that detonated or not. But the name that our AJ Legault and Lou Ragoose have confirmed is Robin Westman, I believe 22-year-old Robin Westman.
I believe he's 23.
Or 23, excuse me. And this person had a name change, which was originally Robert Westman. And I can say that AJ via email has just told us that there is a YouTube account that you'll see going around on Twitter right now that he says he has confirmed is the official YouTube account of this person. So what we're doing is going through and sort of scrubbing these posts and trying to find more information on what was happening there. But again, we're not going to go live with any of that stuff until we get it confirmed here.
And pay attention if you are searching for these things online yourself. There are some fake accounts already popping up because that's what people do apparently. So AJ and you, like you said, the entire investigative team is working very hard to confirm which of these things are true so that we can report them here to you. I do believe Gordon Severson is available out in the field right now to give us any new information. Gordon?
Yeah, Rena, we were told that there's going to be an updated press conference, which was going to happen around 1 o'clock right here. That has been pushed back to 2 o'clock, and we're hoping to get some more information in another, 40, 50 minutes or so. Now, being here right at the scene, the church is just a few hundred feet, behind us here, and we're just seeing so many people coming by. About an hour ago, we saw 5 city council members here from Minneapolis talking to police officers, wanting to get updates. We've seen a lot of neighbors come in. So many people besides these families and these kids have been affected by this. I want to share an interview with someone we just spoke with about an hour ago. She happened to be just driving through. She was a nanny going to meet up with some kids that she watches, and they were getting ready for school starting next week. And this is the last couple of days that she's going to be working with these students, these kids, and she was on her way there, got caught up in this scene. Her car is still in there somewhere. She's not able to get out, but she said it was just crazy to be coming in right at the time that police officers were coming into the church. And she shared some reaction to us. She saw a lot of the family members running in. She saw the kids coming out. Here is some of what she had to say and what her mother had to say when she came here to the scene to meet with her daughter after this incident.
So she called me hysterical, and the first thing she said is, "Mom, I'm safe, but something really bad is happening, and I don't know what it is, but something really bad has happened, and there's police everywhere, Mom, and I don't know what to do." And that's the worst call to get as a parent. I mean, I'm grateful that she's safe, and I can't even imagine what it's like for the other parents and community members who are affected by this.
Thankful to see kids coming out unharmed, safe, but just the looks on some of their faces, the screams coming from the moms who didn't know where their kids are, it was just,
it's gut-wrenching.
Devastating, yeah.
Now, when I got here to the scene around 9 o'clock this morning, I had to park on the far other side of this crime scene and had to walk over here to meet up with my colleague and had to walk several blocks. I saw dozens of families, parents and their kids were just, reunited. A lot of tears, a lot of relief. It just so many emotions here, and so many families, that are still figuring things out. A lot of them waiting for updates at the hospital right now who are directly affected by this. And so, we're going to stay here, try to get some updates on the investigation. As I mentioned, that press conference is going to be around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So we'll see, hopefully get an update from police, maybe city leaders on what they've uncovered over the last couple of hours. Back to you.
All right, Gordon, we appreciate it. This information keeps changing minute by minute almost. It's just one of those situations where the new information keeps coming in and we keep learning different things. So it's just unfolding in real time.
Yeah, it's here now, right? Mm-hmm. We were just here, not long ago with another mass shooting like this, and here we are again. Did you say that other Catholic schools in the Twin Cities were closed today?
Yes, they were either on lockdown, and I can't speak for all of them. I only know two for a fact that were either on secure, which is just a way of saying it's like a light lockdown where no one can come or go. The kids would do inside recess, and not really being told anything because there's some kids are so little that how do you even
send panic?
Right.
You don't want to communicate that. You just want them to stay safe.
So yes, some Catholic schools I know were on secure or lockdown today.
Okay. We also have Jessica Hart, I believe, who's out in the field right now. Is that right, you guys? We have Jessica. We're going to head out to her. Hey, Jessica. How you doing? What can you tell us?
Yeah, hey, Chris. We actually just saw a SWAT vehicle roll out here about just 60 seconds ago. So the scene is still active, but some personnel are starting to leave the scene here. Now, I did check in with a fire official who says that they will be here for several more hours. He doesn't anticipate this scene wrapping up anytime soon. Now, they have expanded their perimeter quite a bit since we've been here, and they aren't really letting people, they're letting people leave because there's a grocery store right next to us, but they're not letting anyone come in here. So it's pretty quiet where we've been at so far this entire morning. Not much has changed within the last 30 minutes or so. We do have the American Red Cross van just standing, or parked right next to us rather, and they're really just kind of providing some snacks and water to these first responders who have been out here for hours. We have several community service officers also out here setting up tables, keeping a perimeter. They're also kind of walking around in groups. We haven't seen too many officers kind of walk off by themselves. We have seen what looks like a few school officials in lanyards. They're kind of walking down this way toward Lyndale and 54th. Just kind of walking in that direction. We're not sure exactly why. Maybe their cars are parked over there. But it's been a very quiet scene here, which is very different from what it was just 2 hours ago when we had police officers searching this neighborhood with canines, going into the back of businesses, just searching for any sort of evidence. We had neighbors just watching everything unfold. One woman we talked with said she wasn't home, but her kids were, and they heard the gunshots. Another woman says she was playing with her grandson outside on the swing when she heard 3 rounds of shots, ran inside her daughter's house, and then minutes later, they started to hear so many sirens. She says she really couldn't put a number on it. But earlier this morning, this entire street was lined with police cars and ambulances, and now you can see it's definitely cleared out quite a bit. You still have police cars here. Parks Police is still here. They're still kind of guarding that front entrance and also a side entrance over here, but it's really quieted down within the last about 45 minutes, Chris. Back to you.
Thanks, Jessica. And the one thing that's so different about this terrible tragedy versus the previous one concerning our lawmakers is that there's no active manhunt right now. We know that that threat, at least as much as we know, is over. But what we can't explain right now is why.
I don't know that that's a question that will ever get answered. Even if you know there is a motive behind it, there's still no reason why something like this would happen. There's no logical explanation for why something like this would happen. This was the second shooting in the city in the last 2 days. You know, the police force, yes, and HCMC have been very busy dealing with gun violence over the last 2 days, and this has waves of Sandy Hook to me, just with how little these kiddos are.
Yes. And they're in the place of what's supposed to be the ultimate comfort, which would be your place of worship, next to the other place of ultimate comfort, which is supposed to be with your new friends in school. I mean, we don't have to lecture the public on how tragic this is, but we're trying to put it into perspective. Can't imagine how every parent feels right now as everyone is sending their children back to school, right? And you're all wondering, okay, so somebody's capable of this. And that's what terror does to you. And we have to be able to fight back psychologically. Ken Martin is the chair of the Democratic National Committee now. He was the head of the Democratic Party, DFL, in Minnesota for many years. He has now taken on that national role. Why do I say this? Because they have a convention going right now in Minneapolis. And he spoke some poignant words a short while ago in Minneapolis, and we have that for you right now.
These families woke up this morning to celebrate milestones in their children's lives. Milestones like the first week of kindergarten. We are heartbroken. This is a tragic day for our city and a tragic day for Minnesotans. On the heels of a tragic year where we already lost our dear friends, Melissa and Mark Ortman, and it's unacceptable. It's far too commonplace in our nation. It's just far too commonplace. Folks, we need your prayers, we need your faith, and we need leadership to stop this evil.
That is Ken Martin speaking there. And just in to the newsroom, President Trump revealing this quote, saying, as a mark of respect for the victims of the senseless acts of violence perpetrated on August 27, 2025 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, By authority vested in me as President of the United States by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby order the flag of the United States shall be flown at half-staff. And I do believe we have a picture of the White House there where they have already done so in honor and in memory of the lives that were lost here in Minneapolis today through senseless violence.
Well, now we delve into these questions, right, as we start to learn more about the shooter and the past and the history and what happened. I mean, there's always this sort of reverse investigation into why these things happen. The truth is they happen, and they happen frequently in this country. The other truth is we haven't really done much about it because of political indifferences or differences. And what I would like to do is invite elected officials and other leaders on to talk about this. It's early right now, and I'm not saying we can go and solve the problems at this point, but it is a continual conversation and a continual traumatic event for families across this country. And these conversations need to be had, and they need to be followed by acts. We have to try, because we can't keep doing this. Yeah.
Our Ian Russell is out in the field, has been all day now. He joins us now with the latest from where he is at, and I believe you're at HCMC. Is that correct, Ian?
Yeah, Rena, we are. We've been here for most of the morning. We got here about 9:15, 9:30 or so. When we arrived on scene, we saw a heavy law enforcement presence. They were out here blocking off, this is South 8th Street that's right here, blocking off the street as these ambulances were coming in from that this morning's shooting. Since then, we've heard some updates from both HCMC here on the number of patients that they have, and also Children's Minnesota as well. HCMC has kind of clarified some of their numbers. Obviously, this is a developing situation, so in the kind of chaos of some things, there were some different numbers reported, but they have clarified these numbers now. We do know now that it is 10 total people that are being treated here at HCMC. That includes 2 adults, one with life-threatening or critical, or who's in critical condition, and one who has non-life-threatening injury, and then 6 kids who are in critical condition, and 2 of them with non-life-threatening injuries. They told us earlier, HCMC did that some of those ages range between 6 and 14 years old. Children's Minnesota has sent us a statement in the last 20 minutes or so now saying they have 7 total kids that they're treating aged between 9 and 16 years old. So obviously a couple different places around the metro are helping out and treating some of these adults, and majority children that are being affected by this, who were shot in this attack here. And just such a senseless tragedy. That's what we've heard from so many folks who are walking out and around here at HCMC. Is just, it's despicable, it's awful, it's a horrific thing to think about. We just talked with some Metro Transit folks who got off the bus, who were walking down a little bit further, who were asking some questions about this, and just, they were in disbelief. They said this is everywhere right now. They were seeing it in news in their home states, and just how awful this is to hear of something like this, especially when it's talking about kids being affected by something like this. So obviously just a horrific, tragic situation here going on, and these doctors, and thankful to them, who are working so diligently and so hard to treat these kids and these adults for their injuries here, and hopefully get these kids out of the hospital soon, guys.
All right, Ian, thank you very much. Appreciate that report, and you're absolutely right. You can't imagine what it's like for those staff to hear that there was just a mass shooting at a school, at a church, and we're going to be intaking we don't know how many patients. And they just did that. That's just an unbelievable thing that they had to go through. We do have a statement, though, that was in from Children's Minnesota, if we want to put that up. And they said, essentially, today, children between ages 9 and 16 were admitted to our hospital for care. As a result of the tragic incident this morning, 1 patient has been discharged. That is wonderful news. Our thoughts are with all the victims, their families and loved ones in our communities who are impacted by yet another senseless act of violence.
We do have some vigils and things to tell you about, because I know people are trying to figure out how to help or what to do. But Chief O'Hara was at the scene earlier today, and we are expecting another update around 2 o'clock. But earlier today, you could feel it, you could hear it in his voice. And how many times have we seen this man show up at a scene? And this is probably one of the worst that you can think of. But he was pretty emotional today when he talked about this. Let's listen.
This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack.
The chief took questions afterward. He answered every question that he got, and he answered it sincerely. And I mean, what an incredible press conference. You just never think you'd have to cover something like that, let him go through it, be a first responder there. Also speaking there at first was a furious Mayor Fry, who just had strong words to the public, and we have a piece of that sound here too.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act. Children are dead. There are families that have a deceased child. You cannot put into words the gravity, the tragedy, or the absolute pain of this situation. We are a Minneapolis family. But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry, understandably upset, angry, emotional. We are learning new information by the moment here. We're expecting a new press conference coming up from the city around 2 o'clock. But right now, investigative reporter AJ Legault is in the newsroom with some new information just in about the alleged shooter. AJ.
Yeah, what we're learning is he did leave behind a series of videos on YouTube that have since been taken down. They appear to be a manifesto. There's video of sketches that show like a hand-drawn sketch of Annunciation, and most of the notes that are in there are written in Russian. They use Russian letters to spell out English words. It's not the word in Russian, if that makes sense. It's a Russian letter that spells out an English word, and there's a hand-drawn sketch of the school or of the church that says in Russian, Annunciation from memory. We're not going to be showing you most of the videos that we found online. They are extremely violent. They reference suicide. And what we've been able to translate from the notes that were put online right now indicate that this suspect had a long-standing fascination with school shootings, with school shooters, and seems to be definitely dealing with a whole lot of stuff right there. As I said, the videos and writings that we're seeing online deal with violence, they deal with suicide. We do know that there is a tie to the school. Facebook posts show that the suspect, Robin Westman, formerly Robert Westman, their mother retired from the Church of the Annunciation in 2021, was a longtime employee. court records, they show that in 2019, the parents of Robin filed in Dakota County to have the name Robert changed to Robin because, and I'm quoting here, minor child identifies as a female and wants her name to reflect that identification. Now, as I said, much of the writings that we're seeing online appear to be this hybrid, they're written in hybrid Russian, using Russian letters. And I'm just reading my notes here, but in the journal we see Robin uses Russian to create words in English, meaning the words aren't actually in Russian, but our team has been able to translate them, matching the Russian alphabet to figure out the words that the letters spell out in English,
Like
and we're working our way through that right now.
Right. So AJ, this is a remarkable discovery, and like I said, we're just back in your office talking to you guys about this. First of all, can you tell people how you were able to authenticate that the YouTube page is legitimate?
We have authenticated that law enforcement is looking at this YouTube page as authentic, as belonging to the suspect, Robin Westman.
And then we know that those posts that you're looking at, one of them was a video that had racist, homicidal, suicidal, sort of maniacal talking over all of these mass cache of weapons. But some of these things were posted at 9 a.m., correct? Which would have been a half an hour after the call to the shooting.
From what our analysis can show is it appears that this video was posted at 9:09 a.m. Central Time, which, you know, we know the shooting happened sometime shortly, right around 8:30. Police were on scene by 8:40, 8:45 in that window. We haven't positively confirmed that the video was scheduled to be posted after this incident, but that is what early indications certainly look like, Chris.
AJ, you talked about a manifesto. What I was seeing online earlier was more like a letter to parents, but is that something that was false? And when you say you were decoding some of this stuff, what kind of things were you hearing or were you seeing?
What we're hearing as we basically decode the writings that we're seeing online was, you know, a deep fascination with violence, with school shootings, with, you know, prior school shootings, and what appears to be early indications saying, this individual is saying that they have been fascinated with school shootings for a number of years, and that other kids were telling adults about this fascination years ago.
Right.
So there may have been some very early warning signs.
Right, and we don't want to, again, paint too much light on whatever was happening in this person's life before this, but it is a matter of the being clear in this story. What
we
you were
definitely
saying,
don't want to glorify in any way what this individual did, because it does appear that this person was fascinated with what they could learn from prior school shootings that we've seen in this country.
Which,
that's where we certainly, as journalists, want to be really, really careful.
And to be clear, what you were saying and what we were talking about back in your office before we could go on the air with it, is that there's like dozens and dozens of handwritten pages in a book. And this person is flipping through the pages, and the letters are from the Russian alphabet.
Correct.
But the language that those letters are speaking is not Russian. It's the Russian letters used to speak English.
Yeah.
We have a person on staff who's Latvian who speaks Russian who's translating some of it, just so that we can find out what it was saying. It's just this.
Yeah, this is really slow
cryptic.
going because it's not even a direct translation in Russian. It's trying to.
Right.
It's like somebody, you know, this is like an individual who used, you know, Googled the Russian letter for something. We were using the example, as we explained to folks back in our offices, it would be as if someone spelled out the word bird, but they used the Russian letter for B, for I, for R, for D to say bird, but it's not the word for bird in Russian.
So it's cryptic. It's it's like but it's like has to be decoded. But the purpose of why we're talking about it and why we're sort of interested in this line of reporting is because we're all trying to find out why and what would drive somebody to commit an act of violence on such an epic scale, an epic and evil scale?
I've covered a number of these school shootings over the years, Chris. They're never easy, and there's never a real why that makes sense. There'll be a why in that person's head, and sometimes you're able to glean some of what they were thinking, but it never really makes direct sense.
Right.
That's exactly right, AJ. And you made a good point where this person may have potentially been obsessed with prior school shootings, and that's why when we report on these, you said we're not going to show you some of this video, and I applaud that, because sometimes I don't even like saying these people's names because I don't want them to get the attention that someone else potentially sees and says, I want that for myself.
Or the attention that they sought.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know,
AJ, we appreciate it. We know you got lots to do, so we're going to let you go back to your reporting, and we'll hear back from you in just a little bit.
All right, talk to you soon, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
AJ.
you. We're going to head out to the scene right now where Lou Raguse has been all day long talking to folks there on the scene, and he joins us now with the latest. Lou?
Well, things out here are starting to slow down a little bit, and traffic is starting to resume. The area behind us is still blocked off as police and other investigators continue to work there. One part, you know, amongst the many layers of this that is really unsaid so far is just how hard cases involving kids are on those investigators and first responders who have to, you know, actually deal with it head on, unlike us reporting on it from back here. You know, so many of them put on such a hard shell 99% of the time, but when things involve kids, there's nothing that affects them more than something like this as well. I've been helping AJ confirm a lot of the things that you guys just finished talking about, and I will just add to these videos that we've seen and reviewed that have been posted by the shooter are just absolutely ridiculous, including things that are racist and anti-Semitic and you name it. And so there really is no value in us sharing some of these things that we're finding right now. It doesn't explain why he did what he did or anything like that, but I can attest to what AJ was just talking about there. Earlier today, about an hour or so ago, we did this interview with a young boy who was in the church during the shooting, a very emotional interview. And I should emphasize that he approached us with his grandfather and his parents, and they all wanted to talk and gave us permission to talk to him. It wasn't as if we're pulling kids aside that are running from the school or anything like that. And so the boy's mother is actually, I believe, the head of the PTA, so heavily involved in the school, and happened to be going by and see all the police here. And that's why when you hear little Weston explain it, that's why his mom was here so early and able to reunite with him so early on as well. But if we have that ready to go, let's take a listen to Weston's interview.
Yeah.
Did you get reunited with your parents?
Yeah, my mom was waiting outside of the church when it happened.
Yeah.
And then
What was it like seeing her?
I was super happy because, like, I was scared that I wasn't going to see her because I didn't know what was happening, really. I was just in shock.
And was it behind you where it was happening, or in front of you, just kind of?
It was, like, right beside me. I was, like, 2 seats away from the stained glass windows. So they were, like, the shots were, like, right next to me.
That's scary.
Yeah.
You went under the pew after that happened?
Yeah. And
Is
then
that what everyone tried to do?
I think I got, like, gunpowder on my neck. Yeah.
When you heard the shots, what went through your head?
I was like, the first one, I was like, what is that? I thought it was just something. Then when I heard it again, I just ran under the pew. And then I covered my head.
And of course, that image of those children hiding under the pews, covering their heads, is something that I personally can't get out of my mind. I'm sure many of you can't either. Another thing that Weston added is that a friend of his helped protect him by covering him up, and that friend was wounded and is now recovering at the hospital. Weston wanted to extend his prayers to his friend and to everyone else who's recovering at the hospital right now. We also have short interviews with his grandpa and his dad, so we'll start turning around those clips so that we can share them on the broadcast as well. And we will have much more as the day goes on. Just to give you an idea of what some other people are working on, I do have the latest address of this shooter, and we have a crew over there to try to talk to the shooter's neighbors and so forth and see what's going on at that location. And that's, for now, a lot of people are kind of, finally taking a break to get something to eat and drink here as they continue to work throughout this horrific scene. Back to you.
Yeah, Lou, listen, man, thank you for that report. I know that you were emotionally twisted, when you were talking to him. You have a son the same age, same name, and how can anybody not have their heart turned upside down when you hear that sweet, innocent voice talk so casually about gunpowder on your neck and seeing your colleagues shot? Just thank you. And also, as Rena mentioned to me while you were chatting, thanks for being clear about the situation there. We're not the type of TV station, and you're certainly not the type of reporter to go chasing kids after they experience some trauma. They approached you, and thanks for being clear about that. But what else did you, real quick before you go, what else did you take away from that interview? Because I know we didn't hear all of it, but it just must have.
Well, just on that note, I'll tell you that all of our friends at the other news outlets here are being very respectful as well. And there happens to be a larger media presence than there otherwise would be because of the DNC meetings going on. A lot of the national news were already here in town for that. And so there are even, you can imagine there's a lot of news people here. There's even more because of that. I just, from that interview, you're right to notice kind of the nonchalant way that he recounts that thing. And I'm sure, having kids in school right now, when we were kids, we had tornado drills and fire drills at school. Our grandparents, maybe even our parents, had those old nuclear bomb drills. Well, kids today have active shooter drills, and it's just heartbreaking that they have to have such a thing. I think of that every single time that my kids tell me about it. Thankfully, they do, so that they are as prepared as you possibly can be when something like this happens, happening so close to home here. But just the way that it's a part of their everyday life, and then now that this shooting has happened here, that kids like Weston and all the rest of the student body are going to have to live with that. They're going to have to, at some point, come back to school. And, you just think about the days and weeks and months ahead and how difficult that's going to be. That's just a whole other layer beyond just the immediate recovery that the wounded will have to go through here.
Absolutely, Lou. And you hit the nail on the head when you say, other news outlets are being respectful as well, because of course they are. We all live in this community too. I used to live in that neighborhood. We all have kids that go to school, and we shop at the same grocery stores, we go to the same churches. We care deeply about this community, and you showed that wearing your heart on your sleeve today, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll check back in with Lou a little bit later. We are waiting on a press conference. It should happen in under an hour, about 50 minutes from now. I also want to speak about the bravery of that young man.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard.
You don't know what you're going to do in that situation, and when you're 10 years old, you certainly don't know what you're going to do in that situation, but what a hero.
Think of going through that. You don't understand it. You just go through it. And then to say, yeah, I'll share, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
I know people are looking for ways to help, to reach out, to do something, to heal with the community. We do have a couple of vigils that are going on this evening.
Yeah, there's one here. This is actually, I believe it's sponsored by Protect Minnesota and Moms Demand Action, but this is a candlelight vigil. If there's somewhere you want to go and be with others and grieve, this is a candlelight vigil for Annunciation Catholic School. It is tonight from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and it's going to be at Lyndhurst Park. If you don't know where that is, it's 1345 West Minnehaha Parkway in Minneapolis. So, if you have this sense that you need to go and be with others in your community, show respect, show support, offer comfort, as you see this State Patrol officer did here. This was a poignant video, actually, because so often, you see law enforcement in different situations, but your job to protect and serve, this is service in its purest form.
Yeah, he doesn't know that woman probably.
No, he's offering a hug, he's offering support. in times of chaos.
You know, our Jason made a good point earlier today when he was for hours anchoring, bringing you the latest information. You know, we talk about vigils or ways to help out in situations like this when you have victims that need to go to the hospital. He suggested donating blood. And I thought that was an excellent point, because there's always a need for blood. Even if it's not these folks, it may make you feel like you're doing something to help, and it certainly would be helping the community. As we come upon this 2 o'clock, very shortly, we're hoping to get a news conference. Do you want to bring people up to speed what we know at this point?
Yeah, let's go through it real quick. If you're just joining us, or if you just tuned in a little while ago, we're going to run through the facts. And so these are the facts that were given to us by the mayor and the police chief in Minneapolis, and they're based on what we've heard from witnesses around there. But here's the deal. This morning, this was just before 8:30 a.m. this morning, police got a call to head to the Annunciation
Catholic Church.
Annunciation Catholic Church, excuse me.
That's in the Tangletown neighborhood, by the way.
It's in Tangletown, right? So this is between Lyndale and Nicollet. This is like 54th Street. So this is southeast Minneapolis. This is the first week of school there. This is the second day of school. And what they do is have a community welcome mass where all the students and community members join in this mass inside the church. What the chief said is that somebody, and this is who we believe to be Robin Westman, 23-year-old, approached the church outside and began firing gunshots through the stained glass windows into the church, at the pews, and at children and other parishioners who were there. The gunshots continued. We think it's an assault rifle, but a rifle was fired, a shotgun was used, and a pistol was used. After the dust settled there, the gunman took his own life, is what we understand, in the back of the church. I don't know if he was inside the church or outside the church, but they said the back of the church. There was a car that the gunman had driven to get there. Again, when the dust settled, 2 children were confirmed dead. 1 8-year-old, 1 10-year-old. 17 other people were injured. 14 of those were children. We understand there have been no other fatalities yet. There were a few children who were critical in the hospital. Condition. We know that at least one of the children has been released from the hospital.
From Children's Hospital. They had 7 kids between the ages of 9 and 16 years old, one of whom has been released. That's the piece of good news that we can give you right now. We do know that HCMC took in, I believe it was 11 patients, 9 kids, 2 adults. They may have updated that recently, but 4 operations were needed, no casualties at HCMC. So we do know that those folks going to be okay.
Right, and so what you have then, since 8:30, has been sheer panic in that neighborhood in South Minneapolis. You have parents that had to find out that their children passed away. Others had to find out their children were hurt. Others finding out their children and loved ones are okay. And you have that emotional trauma to deal with there at the situation, at the place there. Since then, we've been trying to do a little more diligence and find out why, right? Who did this and why? And all we can really share at this point is that we've been able to authenticate some of the messages, some of the videos on social media channels of this alleged shooter. And from what I have seen, considering that those pages are not authenticated, has been nothing but sort of filth, racism, homicidal, maniacal things. We also could confirm that the mother of the alleged shooter worked at Annunciation Church for many years and retired.
2021.
We know that there was a manifesto written in some cryptic Russian/English sort of cryptic messaging that we're trying to sort of decode back here with our Russian speaker that we work with. And we don't have any insights.
And there doesn't appear to be a relationship between this person being Russian and this person was not from Russia. This person was from here.
Also, there's like this manifesto, and it has a map of the church layout, and I believe the title of it was Annunciation from Memory, something like that. So I would presume that they went to school there, but I can't report that. I don't know that this
We
person
don't
went
know
to
that.
school
We
there
only
or
know
not.
that his mother
So-
was, in fact, employed there for many years and
So
retired.
yeah, you seek a why. We don't have a why.
There'll
I don't know
never
if we'll
be
ever have a why.
There'll never be a
And
why.
it just, there is no, there's nothing rational here. So
We do have Ian Russell, who is out on the scene right now. So let's head to him and see if he has any new information at HCMC. Ian?
Rena and Chris, a lot of this has stayed about the same since the last time we spoke to you. You mentioned some updates here. HCMC came out and spoke to us about noon, had an initial press conference around 11 a.m. where they kind of gave us some updates on some numbers of patients and kids and adults they were treating here. Came out around noon to update that. It's now 10 total patients, 1 adult and 6 kids that are in critical condition, and 1 adult and 2 kids that have some non-life-threatening injuries. So 7 and 3, kind of in the split between the two, but 10 total patients that are being treated here. As you mentioned, Children's Minnesota has 7 patients they were treating. 1 of those has been released between the ages of 9 and 16. Here at HCMC, it was between 6 and 14 is what they told us earlier, and 4 of them, I believe, was the number they told us earlier this morning, had to be operated on and treated for some of their injuries as they were coming in here after that shooting this morning. HCMC officials also told us that they set up a reunification center for some of these parents of the kids that are being treated here, and for some of the loved ones who are related to the adults that are being treated here, or just for everyone who's being treated here, across the street from the building you see back behind me. They told me during that noon update when they came out and talked to us that the majority of those families have been able to reconnect, or at least get an update on their family members right now, and at least have some of that most up-to-date information of what is happening. But obviously, as we've kind of heard throughout the day, just a horrific, tragic, terrible scene. The doctors that we talked with earlier spoke about that. And, it's a sense of, you go through these trainings and you kind of understand the process of what something that like this might look like, but you never actually really expect, I think, to actually do it. You go through these trainings, but to actually witness this in person and to actually do it is a whole other story. And it's hard, it's difficult, it's terrible to work through and to deal with. The doctors told us the initial call and the page for a mass casualty event came around 8:46 this morning. They said within minutes they were able to quickly respond, kind of get their folks mobilized to be able to come in, or the folks that were here to be able to treat the influx of patients that were coming in here. So, I mean, obviously, a shout out to them for the quick response and the ability to treat these kids and the adults and the families and everything that's coming through here. So just a massive shout out to them for the hard work to help these kids, but just horrific. I think it's fair to say this happened in the first place.
I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved.
It was Dr. Thomas Wyatt you heard from there. As he said, it's a gratefulness to the folks who helped, but I mean, these are difficult situations. You're talking about kids as young as 6 years old. I mean, any age affected by this is tragic, but obviously young children affected by this as well. Hennepin healthcare officials told us they'll be releasing information online through their online newsroom throughout the remainder of the day. It doesn't sound like as of right now there's any more planned in-person media availabilities, but I'll be checking with them just to see if there are any updates, see if we can speak to them as patients are treated and released here hopefully soon, guys.
All right, Ian, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We did just get an update too, real quick, from Plymouth Police Department. And this is something that we typically probably wouldn't report because it was an unsubstantiated threat to the school this morning. But considering what happened in Minneapolis, I think it is worth reporting. And essentially, we have staff that have kids in that district area too, but they had to close schools down today because of an unsubstantiated threat. But the Plymouth PD is saying that they received word about a vague and unsubstantiated threat regarding a school in Plymouth this morning. They say upon receiving that report, staff notified both Wayzata Public Schools and Robbinsdale area schools. Upon further investigation, police have no reason to believe that there's any credible threat to any schools in Plymouth. But they're going to maintain regular police coverage in Plymouth, and they're going to continue providing extra patrols in those schools. But this is based off of what happened this morning in Minneapolis. So even if it's unsubstantiated, even if there's any threat, you have to take it seriously.
And I'm sure parents in the district want to know
Mandate,
as much
for sure.
information as possible. You mentioned a prayer vigil earlier. Annunciation saying that there will be a prayer vigil tonight at 7 p.m., but that is actually going to happen at the Holy Angels Gym, which is at 6600 Nicollet Avenue South. So they are holding a prayer vigil at 7 p.m. in the Holy Angels gym. Let's go back out to the scene now where Jessica Hart is standing by. She has been there all morning. I know things are slowing down there, Jessica, but what do you have and what do you know?
Yeah, Rita, things have slowed down quite a bit within the last hour or so. We've actually seen some Kowalski workers come out here and bring some food out to these first responders who've been at this scene investigating all morning. There are still people inside the school, actually. We just had another lady kind of in a blue shirt, black pants, just walk out through those front doors. She's talking with officers right now. So there are still some people walking inside the school, answering questions and doing different police work from officers on scene here. But this area has really changed within the past 3 hours. When we got here, there were dozens of people over here just on looking at what was happening, and now it's just a few people left here just looking to see. There's not much has changed here. There were some squad cars parked out front of the school from Minneapolis Parks. They have since left. They've been gone for about 30 minutes or so as crews continue to process this scene. Now, everyone here on scene tells me that they're going to be here for a while. They don't know how long, but they're going to be here for several hours still as they continue to investigate what happened here. And just talking with neighbors who live nearby, many of them just want to know why. They want to know why someone would do this. I talked with one woman whose kids don't go to Annunciation Catholic School, but they do go to Windham Public Schools, which isn't too far from here. And they're supposed to go back to school next week, and she's wondering if she needs to be nervous about sending her kids back to school. A lot of people tell me that it's just unimaginable that something like this could happen. You see it happen all the time, and people tell me they feel like they shouldn't be shocked, but whenever it hits really close to home, especially in your neighborhood, it just feels really different. And so it's definitely quieted down here within the last 60 minutes or so, but the emotions are still kind of here as people continue to just sporadically kind of come up and just take a look at the scene. Again, not much happening here right now, so we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, Jessica, thanks for the report. And real quick, I just got a question for you. Can you show us behind, I'm trying to figure out exactly where you're standing, where the church is, and sort of where this incident happened. We all visualize it in our head based on the press conference, but I'm just trying to figure out sort of your vantage point right now, if you know more about that.
Yeah, so Chris, we're at the intersection of 54th and Lindale, so we're not too far from where the church is. So this is kind of the school right here, and you actually can't see the church from where we're standing. So if the school's right here, the church is right over there. It's kind of next door, and that's where we also seen a lot of police kind of stationing out in front of. So it's really close to the school here, just maybe a block or so that way from our direction, but we're right here at the intersection of 54th and Garfield.
If you're near that area, I believe you're standing near the Kowalskis, is that right?
Yeah, we're actually in kind of the back lot of the Kowalskis. This is kind of the same spot that we've been in all morning. We actually were kind of down here on the corner, but police have kind of expanded their perimeter throughout the day, so they've pushed us back a little bit. So we're just standing along the fence line right here so we can still give you a visual and kind of keep an eye on what's going on at the front of the school, because every now and again we'll see officers kind of walk in and people walk out. So we are closer to the scene than what we were maybe about 2 hours ago when they pushed us further back.
All right, Jessica, thank you. I know we have some other sound that we want to get to, but I just want to point out real quick that actually Pope Leo XIV sent a telegram here to the United States to Archbishop Bernard Hebda of Minneapolis. The Pope expressed his heartfelt condolences and the assurance of spiritual closeness to all those affected by this terrible tragedy, especially the families now grieving the loss of a child. It goes on to say much more, but we just wanted to let you know that this has gotten all the way to the Pope, and that the Pope is now responding to this terrible tragedy that we are experiencing here in our community.
Yeah, certainly. Wow.
We know some
neighbors.
We
knew that was going to happen.
We know some neighbors in the neighborhood there have plenty to say.
Right. So we've been talking to some of the witnesses, obviously, and some of the neighbors in that community, and we spoke to them earlier today. Here's what one neighbor had to say.
So we live about 2 blocks from here. I was on a call. All the windows of our home were open. I know what gunfire sounds like, and I could tell. I was shocked. I said, "There's no way that could be gunfire." There was so much of it.
Well, I'm pastor as well at St. Olaf downtown, and when I got the news of the mass shooting at Annunciation, I thought I'd come down to HCMC to comfort the parents or whoever's here, just to be a presence from the Archdiocese with them.
What was your thought when you heard about what happened?
It was horrific. And I grew up in that parish, so it has meaning to me now, but it shouldn't be happening. And what happened on 8th and Hennepin this morning, Lake Street yesterday, something's got to happen here in the city to stop this.
Yeah, that's the question that everybody is saying. Something's got to happen to stop this, and you know, it's an incredibly complex and difficult thing to attack, and we will get to this with our coverage certainly in the coming days. But it's just a theme that you keep hearing because we keep covering these tragedies.
Nothing gets done because we keep reporting and we keep saying the same thing, that something needs to get done.
Yeah, well, it's a complex thing, you know, and we don't know how this person got his weapons too. We do have a Second Amendment in this country, and we just don't know yet. So it's hard to speculate. We're certainly not going to speculate from here. We do have a tweet, I believe, from former President Barack Obama. I'm reading this cold right now, but here's what he had to say. This is from 1:09 p.m. I don't know if that's East Coast or Central, but it's recent. He said, "We can't allow ourselves to become numb to mass shootings." That's something we've been talking about this morning. Quote, "What happened today in Minneapolis is heartbreaking. And Michelle and I are praying for the parents who have lost a child who will be sitting at their hospital bedside after yet another act of unspeakable, unnecessary violence," end quote. And it comes from a long list of elected officials and former elected officials who have been talking, and many of them saying similar things. So this is just a statement from current President Donald Trump, who is saying, out of respect for the victims there in the senseless act of violence, he's saying that the flags are going to be at half staff throughout the United States, appropriately so.
And this is a picture, a live picture of the White House right now, where they have already taken the steps to do that, as that announcement then goes out to the rest of the country to lower the flags out of respect for what happened here today in Minneapolis. We are hoping to get a news conference, an update from city officials earlier today. It was Chief Brian O'Hara, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry. I assume it'll be the two of them back again to give us an update on this
investigation. And sort of probably an update on some of the health concerns of the kids who were shot, obviously. But what we're seeking and what's going to come out over the next few hours and over the next couple of days are the stories of the kids who are in there. And it's worth repeating, and I can't stop thinking about it because it's almost unbelievable. You have an entire congregation of children, students, community, family, all in a church, and they're praying together. And they're experiencing Mass as a community. And then you hear gunshot, you see broken glass, and you witness the unspeakable, which is children being shot and murdered. And that happened in this city this morning. We're going to continue reporting the facts. We'll bring you the latest that we know, but we're all grieving with you, and we're going to keep going on this story as long as we need to get you covered, the story covered, and give it the proper coverage. We're going to take a quick break.